Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Diplo Strats. I'm here once again with Ezio. Hi, Ezio.
Hello, hello.
And we are back with the beautiful Imperial Diplomacy variant. People loved this one last time we played. Last time we commentated it. It's currently one of the most viewed videos on our channel, I think, and we have returned for the A2 playtest. And in fact, this time it's not just me playing. Ezio played a game as well, and here this game that we're going to be commentating is Ezio's game. So Ezio is going to be taking the lead on looking around the map, on talking about what he was doing, and I'll be sitting back here and criticizing him.
Yeah, there's not going to be a whole lot to criticize. I'll tell you that right now.
uh, this variant has undergone a few changes since the first time you've seen it. We'll talk about some of the map changes in a second, but the actual rules, if you learn all of the various rules from the first video, you can forget about them. Most of them are gone. There are a few left, which we'll go through here. First, coring is a thing in this variant. The way that works is basically, in this variant, just like in normal diplomacy, you can only build in your home supply centers. But you can turn supply centers into home supply centers by using the core action. You need to have a unit standing on the supply center, you need to issue a special order to that unit saying core, and you need to do that 2 turns in a row without anyone cutting your unit. Anyone attacking it at all. If anyone cuts it, it disrupts the core and you have to start all over again. In addition, if you're coring, you cannot support that unit in any way. You can't support hold it. The support hold just won't work. So it's a bit of a risky thing to do, but if you have like an area that's not under threat and a unit that's free, you can go ahead and do it and let yourself build maybe a little bit further away from your initial home supply centers. That it's a really cool mechanic, and I think it works really well. The second thing, which you will be able to see very easily on this map, are the high seas zones. Ezio, can you zoom in on one of those for us?
I can.
Yeah, there we go. So North Atlantic Ocean is a high seas zone. These are special territories, basically, which are introduced in large variants to try and stop the normal large variant problem of having massive stalemate lines in the ocean. Because stalemate lines tend to appear on diplomacy maps where, I should say, stalemate lines are like a line that you can't break through. They tend to appear on diplomacy maps in areas where there are a lot of large provinces, and people tend to stick lots of large provinces in the ocean because, it's the sea. There's no supply centers there, right? So, usually you get a problem where people have fleets, they bring all their fleets out to the ocean, and then they just get stuck against each other. The high seas zones solve this in a really interesting way, and a really good way. Like, I think it reflects what the ocean is like quite well. In that, you have all of these different sea zones, right? So NAO1, NAO2, NAO3, etc. They are all adjacent to everything around the North Atlantic Ocean, and they're all adjacent to each other. So if you're in... That actually includes all of the South Atlantic Ocean provinces as well. They're all adjacent to all of them. But if you're in, for example, Rockall Rise, which is over next to Ireland, you can go to any of the North Atlantic zones. You can go to NAO1, NAO2, NAO3, and all of them work like a normal diplomacy province. If you go to NAO2 and someone else goes to NAO2 from another province, then you will bounce. But if someone else goes to NAO3 and you go to NAO1, something like that, you can just go right past each other. There's no problem there. And so people can use these provinces to kind of slip behind other people's lines. It's very difficult to stalemate out in the ocean with these provinces around. And a change from A1, if you move over to Africa here, is that we have our first high sands zone, which is the Sahara Desert. It has Sahara 1, Sahara 2, Sahara 3. This works in exactly the same way, but it's just armies instead of fleets. So they're all adjacent to everything around and adjacent to each other. The third, and I believe final rule change, well, the final rule change from standard is just the victory conditions. So on this map we have a huge amount of players, and they all start with very different supply center counts. Right down at the bottom you will see Tokugawa, which is Japan, has 4. A lot of powers have 4, in fact. And they need to get to 32 supply centers to reach their victory condition. At the very top of the board, you have the colonial powers. So people like the Portuguese and the Spanish start with 16 supply centers, and they have to get all the way to 64, which is honestly a massive number of centers for anyone to reach on any diplomacy variant, because you have to order that many units around all the time. But it makes sense because they're much, much larger. They can, like, roll much, much harder if they get going. The exact victory conditions. If you remember from the original Imperial Diplomacy video, if you've watched that, there were a lot of, like, weird victory conditions. They've cut all that out in this one. It's very, very simple. You have to reach your victory condition, which is kind of obvious. And then on top of that, in order to declare victory, you need to be 25% ahead of everyone else. Like 25% towards your victory condition. So victory condition percentage is how far along the way to your victory condition you are from your starting count. We'll show exact percentages as we go through. The important thing is you need to be way ahead of everyone else. And if there are more than one... If there's more than one person over that 100% line, so who have achieved that victory condition, they can all declare a joint victory as long as they're 25% ahead of everyone else. So that's pretty much it on that front.
Yeah, the important thing to take away from the victory explanation is that multiple people can win in this game.
Yes.
It's important to just get that out at the very start. Multiple people get the W.
Yes, so
It's not called a draw.
Unlike in standard diplomacy, where you have like in standard diplomacy, if you win the game, you're getting to 18 supply centers, you're doing that alone. Everyone will be fighting you. It's possible that someone gets to a win in this variant without people fighting them, because those other people also get the win, right? If there's a group that work together to get over that line, then you maybe get an easier path to the end. However, that you could still regret that if someone gets 25% ahead of you, if they've even if you've reached your victory condition, if they're 25% ahead of everyone, including you, they can still declare a solo victory, right? So you need to be super careful in that respect about pushing your allies over the line.
But yeah, unlike in the standard diplomacy map, where there are only 34 supply centers and you need 18 to win, it is impossible for 2 people to win the same game of diplomacy, to win. Everything other than 18 supply centers in diplomacy standard is a draw. And then there are different tournaments that have different rule settings, and a lot of people conflate board topping with winning. And I think that's a fair thing to do in a lot of tournament contexts, but I think in standard diplomacy, you only won if you got 18 supply centers. You finished first in the draw, and if you want to call that a win, go for it. But in this game, they call winning that impunity thing.
Yes.
And I think that's a really important distinction that I had going into this game. And actually, when we talk about it again, we'll talk about other people's philosophies about that. But we'll get there when we get there.
Yep. So the other important thing I forgot, in order to achieve victory, in order to be included in that joint immunity, you need to own your capital. So, for example, Madrid is the capital of Spain. You can see it from the little symbol that's on it. Lisbon is the capital of Portugal. You've got poor old Netherlands with their capital in Amsterdam with just 2 units. Like, Netherlands is one of the largest powers on the board, but their capital is so indefensible, it feels incredibly painful, right? I think we had a discussion before the game saying Netherlands is definitely the worst power. In fact, I think we said that in the last playtest as well.
Yeah, Netherlands is bottom tier for sure.
Amusingly, I think Ezio said that on the Discord, and then because there's a lot of these Imperial Diplomacy games running at the moment,
Yeah.
mainly thanks to the interest from that video, so thank you everyone who watched that and went
Watched and
and
played.
played it. Yeah, every time a Netherlands wins a game, Ezio gets pinged now, which
And
is...
of the games that have finished, I think there have been 5 games now that are done. I think Netherlands has soloed one of them and been involved in, I think, 2 other draws.
Mm-hmm.
I
Two other
think they're at
wins, you
like,
mean?
yeah. In our, yes, people call them draws all the time, and they're not draws, they're victories. But it's just,
Yeah,
I
joint
got into a bad
impunity
habit.
versus solo impunity is what Ezio is referring to here.
Wow.
Solo, if we're referring to a solo, what we mean is one person got to that victory condition by themselves, which is really hard to do. So,
Yeah.
congratulations to anyone who manages that. Um, so yeah, well, first off, in the last game, I played as Bornu. That power doesn't exist anymore. I clearly was such a good player, they decided they had to remove that power from the game because it was too
Yeah,
overpowered.
'cause you
Um,
showed your dominance. I haven't you played your power so poorly they had to remove it because you still didn't get crushed, despite how you played.
yeah, we mentioned at the start of the start of that commentary that I picked that power because it was ludicrously defensible, right? The way that it was set up, just because there's a bunch of tiny provinces in the middle of like a vast number of a small number of much larger provinces around it, made it incredibly hard for anyone to come in and carve up. And so they
Yeah,
decided to change that. They removed Bornu and they put in Mali, which is the green power just there. And they put in the Sahara to basically replace where Bornu was. So rest in peace, Bornu. I would like to demand you back, but I feel like the variant is better for you being gone. Um,
yeah. I also don't think they solved any of the problems with Borneo. I think Molly is just Bornu but more powerful.
mhm.
So yep. And then
Well,
they gave it a core on the coast to help you build fleets for no reason.
well, I think that's kind of important because as Bornu, you could. So, for context here, Bornu was very far inland and had basically no ability to get any fleets out ever unless someone was really kind to them and let them core something on the coast without tapping them, right? Um, but I think it's kind of important to have players more involved with the sea as well as the land. And this means at least Mali has some ability to get out to sea, whereas Bornu had nothing. They also removed the other, the Sioux tribe in North America, which was the other power that had like a bunch of inland provinces and no ability to get out to sea. They replaced that with the Shoshone, who actually do have coastal provinces over there. So yeah, I think they were good decisions, even if Ezio is saying that Mali still has problems. I think generally the variant has been quite significantly improved from the first iteration. But anyway, we so Ezio's first like I think in the last video you said you wanted to play Bornu to see how you compare to what I did. Well, you cannot.
Yeah.
Get wrecked. My Bornu play will stand as the best Diplostrats commentated Bornu play ever in the history of this variant.
Yeah, the history of the world.
So instead, we had to choose another power to play. And the variant's creators, Flare and Elisha, I had a discussion with them, and basically they said, okay, it's fine. If you and Ezio both want to play the same power on different boards so that you can compare how you perform, right? Which is, I think it was Ezio's idea originally. It's a really cool way to do this. My game hasn't finished yet, so I can't really talk about it. I don't want to give away what my strategy is. But Ezio's has, which is this game that we're commentating, and Ezio chose the power that both of us would play. Do you want to say what that power is and why you chose it?
Yeah, astute viewers might have noticed me zooming in on Madrid when you mentioned the capitals needing to be retained because I chose Spain.
Hmm.
I wanted to play Big Colonial. I think that's what makes this variant the most unique out of everything. Um, there are lots of big diplomacy like world variants, but in most of the other variants, they're just a bunch of regionals on each continent, and then they all win and then fight later. This one, I loved the feeling of being in multiple different regions.
Yeah.
But I spent some time to look at the different colonials' starts and how they felt. And I thought that Spain was the best of all of the colonials. It was tied for biggest, so it needs to get 64 supply centers, which is going to be a huge pain. But um, I felt that Holland and Portugal were so spread out. They were miners everywhere. And, like, there's being a miner, which is like, okay, you've got a good three center area that's like close together, but they don't even have that most places. They're like, oh, I got a couple of centers over here, and then Portugal and South Africa is actually, I think, one of Portugal's strengths. So don't focus too much on that. But I thought the other colonials were much harder to handle than that. Then I looked at England and France as other comparisons because they are pretty focused on North America and back home. The reason why I didn't want to play them is because I felt like their games were too interconnected. Um, and I didn't want so much of my game to be reliant on one other person. As England or France, I think you have to either juggernaut with the other or hard stab them and just eliminate them. And I don't think, I mean, that just seems really hard to do. I don't think either. I didn't think either one of them had a particularly good stab on the other, and I didn't want to do that. So I didn't want to put all my eggs in that basket, and so I said, you know what? Let's instead go Spain because Spain has a strong presence in the Med. They are the dominant power in the Mediterranean in the early game. They start with four fleets in the area, and France only has one. Ottomans only have two. So there's some juicy dots that get over here, and their very strong presence in Central America is really good. Just there's a lot to like here. They are still weaker than the regional powers in the area. Like if Shoshone decides to attack me in Mexico, I will lose. They have more units in the area. They can build more. It just doesn't go well if they decide to go to war with me. So stopping that from happening is critical. Same thing with Amara. Amara is actually a little closer because their armies are in such bad position to attack immediately, but I really can't kill them at the start unless I get them to completely walk away.
Hmm.
So again, I'm weaker than them, but I like having three units close together is at least some strength. And then I have this fleet in Panama that can go and maybe go either way. So
Panama doesn't
yeah,
actually have a canal. I mean, which
yeah,
is reasonable
yes.
given the
Sorry,
timing. But Suez does, which interests me. But Panama, you start on the north coast, I think, so that can
yeah.
only go into the Caribbean, right?
Yeah, in '01, that's true. But like
Hmm.
being able to build extra units in Panama, South Coast, and still have it come down is going to be a useful thing potentially. Like that's an added extra flexibility. Like if I want to get four units and build four units to send them into the south, like I can build Bogota, Quito, Lima, and Panama South Coast type stuff. But yeah,
Yes.
at the start of the game, this fleet is locked in on the Caribbean slash the rest of the stuff over here. Um, okay, and then we also, because we are still the colonial, we do have a dinky two center thing over here.
Hmm.
And hey, who knows? This stuff might be relevant later. It's two centers. Maybe I can make friends with Netherlands because they're strong in the reach. Maybe I can do something. I don't know. Whatever. It's I didn't. I and this was very much an afterthought, but I picked it because this is nice, and then I picked this because look at how much yellow there is on the map. I'm so big.
Yeah. It
Basically.
it is really nice that like the Philippines can feel like a bit of a throwaway region, right? If you lose it, you don't feel too bad because you've still got all of this like massive core area. I feel like as
Yep.
Portugal and Netherlands, basically all your regions feel like you can lose them fairly easily. Well, maybe
Yep.
not all, but close to all, right? Whereas as Spain, you
Yeah.
at least have somewhere you can look at and think, okay, I'm not gonna lose that all at once.
Yeah, but it does mean if you lose anything core, it's a really big problem.
Yeah, that is
Like,
true.
if things go badly, I think things go really badly.
hmm On that note, I did want to ask you, what were your immediate thoughts on Belize? Because that I was looking at this early game situation as Spain, and that's like the one province that, I mean, kind of the whole Caribbean stands out in this same kind of way, in that if you're trying as Spain to create a consolidated core, then that's the area you're a bit worried about, because if someone comes in from there, then both your fronts can completely disintegrate, right? But Belize is like the one that you look at when you're doing that, because it's the one that's in the middle of your starting territories already. It is a fleet, so it probably won't immediately attack you, but it is a scary prospect for England to be able to build there, I think.
Yes, I completely agree. My thoughts on the Caribbean are that I think it's juicy. Um, I looked at the Caribbean and I saw a bunch of really weak powers that could only build a couple of centers. Um, England is your biggest rival because they can build four if you count Bermuda, and then using Bermuda on the Caribbean instead of on North America, which
Mhm.
I think is very possible. And so England is your main rival in the region, but France is here, and there's this fleet in New Courland, which can be relevant. And
Mhm.
so I was hoping that England would deprioritize the Caribbean, and then I would be able to scoop it up later, basically. Um, and when we start talking about the actual game, we'll see how that goes. And the answer is very well. But um, I don't know. Like, I don't know how. My initial thoughts about this, I didn't look too closely at any of the tactics before the game started. I didn't have like I had a sense of the strategy of each of the different powers, which is why I chose Spain. But I didn't do any like O1 analysis or move openings or anything to be like, hey, I think that as Spain, I'm going to try to offer Amara this deal, and then I'm going to take these centers or anything like that. Um, I looked at the strategy of it, and so I had no particular pre-game thoughts about Belize. And I'll just say, in our game, part of the first negotiations that England sent me was, "Hey, do you want to take Belize from me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I would. I would like to take Belize from you. Absolutely, yes."
That
And
definitely
so that
solves it.
that yeah, I didn't. It was like, oh, okay, it was just not a problem. And I think England used that approach, and I think it's a very reasonable approach. Like, I don't want to give England any crap because I've made similar deals with other people, and when we talk about negotiations, but in this variant where you can win with another person as an ally, appeasing people is a very valid way to keep them from full on attacking you in a critical manner. Be careful with your appeasements because sometimes your appeasements will make them attack you because, hey, they're already in position to. But I think this was his way of saying, look, I don't want to mess with you in Central America, and I want to be clear that I'm not messing with you in Central America, and I don't want you to feel like you have to attack me for self preservation. So here, just take Belize, I'll take Jamaica, and then I'm not going down one because it's still getting a center, and you cannot have to worry about me putting any armies in Central America. And that's a great pitch. I'm going to love that every time. And it made me think that I could work with England and that I could make solid deals with him immediately. And so, to that effect, that was a great way to get started on it. I think strategically, Belize is more important than England thought it was. Right, he only has four cores in the region. Taking it down means he now only has three cores in the region. And with me taking Belize, I have a great excuse to have fleets all over in the west coast of the Caribbean. And so it means that if I build a fleet in Panama and say, oh, I'm just going to go take Cartagena, I just go to Bay of Panama instead, and suddenly the Caribbean looks really awkward. So I think that was a strategic mistake with the specific center, but that idea of selling out dots to people to make allies is a critical part of this variant, especially as a colonial. Um, Strategically, I have 16 centers to start the game with, and if when I looked at all of the centers, basically every single unit that I have has a neutral dot that it can get to within the first year that nobody else is contesting. So with relative ease, I'm pretty sure I could double from 16 to 31. I think Madrid is the exception to this rule. I think Madrid could only take a center from another person.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, yeah, if I want to just grow a ton, I can. But the difference between having 31 centers and having 30 centers is not that big. Like, it's relevant, sure, because it's extra center, but I'd much rather not go to war with someone than get an extra center.
Yes.
And I follow through on this philosophy in Europe. Should I just start going and talking through like the 01 of the game?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, so high level. 01 of the game was highlighted by easy negotiations with regional powers and really hard negotiations with colonials. Like every regional that I talked to, we were able to pretty easily say, hey, here are the centers that I would like to take, and here are the centers that you would like to take. And on all of these discussions, I was very clear to let the regional take charge and have the regional tell me, hey, Spain, this is the center that I would like to take. You can have this one. And then I would say, great, I'll take the one that you want me to take. And so with Shoshone, for example, Ute Shoshone, it was very easy. And I talked to them, and they're like, hey, look, you can take Hawaii and Apache, and I will get Baja California. And I'm not going to try to pronounce most of these because, yeah, that one, though.
You're going to have to at some point, right?
Well, maybe not. I'm going to do my best.
So, I think just as a general heads up for this video, people who actually know what these are pronounced, how these are pronounced, are going to hate this. But yeah.
They're going to love the sense of superiority that they have over us because we have no clue how to pronounce any of this stuff. But yes, we apologize to everyone who we offend with our mispronunciations.
We're gonna attempt to pronounce them and just run with whatever we say. Hopefully we won't have any Borneos in Africa this time around, which I think was a comment we got like 10 times on the last one.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah.
All right.
So,
but that idea of we'll talk with the regionals and say, hey, which centers do you want me to take? And then I'll take them. And then with England, actually, I had an easy opening negotiations because England just said, hey, take Belize. And then we're going to make peace in the Caribbean. And I'm like, all right, that's wonderful. I'm really happy to hear that.
So wait, did they want you to take Belize in the very first year with the Panama fleet?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, because like I would lean, if I was England, I would definitely consider just saying to like Spain, hey, you know, let's trade Belize for something and then I'm out of your hair, right? But I would say to them, hey, please take it with an army in the second year that you build in like Mexico City or Panama. And then it's not...
I think that's a far safer way to sell out Belize.
Yeah.
Look, I think England regrets their choice about how they went about this in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you'll see why, right? It's like, look, the fleet in Belize is not a good place. Like England doesn't love that fleet being there. Okay, so other negotiations that went well. Amara, I talked to them and was like, hey, look, tell me what centers you want. And he wanted Madeira. And so I'm like, all right, great. I'll take Putumayo. And then we talked to Netherlands at some point. They were going to take Amazon. And then I'm going to send Quito out of here. And then I'm going to go to Cartagena. And everything's fine. I'm like, great. So peace in the south. That's great. Any other really significant negotiations with regional powers? Yeah. Ayutthaya.
Yep.
Yeah, Ayutthaya was like, hey, I'm not going to go for Cotabato. And I'm like, all right, sweet. I will go for Cotabato then. And I'll talk to Netherlands about Cotabato, and they will be okay with me taking Cotabato. Now it's time to talk about my negotiations with the other colonial powers. So in 01, I've talked about England a couple of times now with Belize, and they were the easiest ones to negotiate with. Everything was... we didn't have that much to talk about. It was, hey, I'm not going to go for Catawba, and let's be friends. And then England said, great, go for it. Wonderful. And we're not that close, so there's not that much that we have to discuss this early. Portugal was another easy person to negotiate with at the start of the game. We have the most critical border, kind of, in that if we lose our capital, we can't win the game, and we both have this border here. I'm glad they start with 2 fleets, thank God. If they started with an army, this gets nasty for no reason.
Yeah.
But they start with 2 fleets, and so we're like, hey, look, we can be peaceful here, and we've got areas that we can coordinate with all over the map. Because, first of all, we'll be peaceful in Iberia. I'll convoy my army out of Madrid to keep you safe. And then part of our discussions are that I will sell away Canaries in exchange for him selling your boss. If you look at the tactics around here, Azores, the only dot that it can reach, like it can go up here to Greenland, but that's one that's going to get contested by other players. And then this one is this fleet in Azores can only go to Rabat, basically. That's its easy center, that's uncontested. And so, but he wanted Canaries, and I wanted to have Tangier and Marrakesh, because that's where these units are going to go. So I'm like, hey, look, I'll just sell you Canaries, and you can have Rabat, and then I won't push any further out in Portugal, out of like the Atlantic Ocean, and I can have my centers in Morocco safely.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my hope at the start over here.
Wait,
and that was easy negotiation.
So just to be clear there, you're giving up Canaries this turn to take Rabat
no,
this turn?
No,
okay.
I'm taking Marrakesh.
Okay, I was gonna say if you
the tactics don't work out, both bounce and Canary, and
exactly.
So no, he'll take Rabat year 1, and I'll take Marrakesh. And part of it was that I didn't want to lose any centers in the first year. I was not going to sell anything out, because I didn't want anyone to look at that and say, hey, these countries might be attacking each other. I felt that in this game, people will capitalize. As a colonial, if I look weak, my neighbors will all try to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
I was really confident of that fact. And so I knew that I needed to do my utmost to still look strong and to build every turn of the entire game. So that way no country could look at it and say, Spain's not building, let me go kill them. And so that was a huge emphasis of my game, was trying to stay strong and maintain steady growth the entire game.
Yep.
And losing Canaries, I'm still going to grow a lot. This is the first year, but it's like, hey, is Portugal attacking them? And so I wanted it to be clear that wasn't happening, so nobody else got any funny ideas. Other places to negotiate.
If it's very obviously a trade, if you're moving into Rabat when Portugal owns it in the second year, and they're moving into Canaries when you own it, then it telegraphs the entire board. Hey, this is fine between us.
Yep, and that's sometimes you don't want that to happen, right? Obviously, sometimes you want to make it unclear. Oh, who's he working with? Who's he not working with? Are they allied? Are they not? I didn't want that this game. This game, I wanted to say, no, I am allies with everyone. I am the best friend of everyone on the board. Don't kill me. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to kill them, basically.
I think that's a good tactic.
Yeah, I think it's a good tactic. In normal diplomacy, it's harder because you can't win with them. You have to stab somebody. In this variant, you never have to stab. You can always win with somebody else. Great. So that was Portugal. Despite the arrangement being relatively an easy one, it felt harder to negotiate with than with England. Like, there was an edge to it that I can't quite put my finger on. But, yeah, I didn't love that. And I heard from other people that they had much worse negotiations with Portugal. And so leaving 0-1, I was confident that Portugal was going to get crushed. It was that obvious to me, because I felt like Portugal's diplomacy was just going to get that Portugal was just going to get crushed.
Yeah, sometimes you can just tell something like that off the bat, right? Especially, like, in a variant like this, with a power like Portugal that's spread out all over the map, if people aren't getting good vibes early on, or that if people are outright saying to you, hey, I don't have good vibes from this player, then they're probably the person that they're leaning to attack. And with someone like Portugal, if they're getting attacked all over the map, then a lot of other players are just going to go, oh well, Portugal is weak, I'll jump on them as well, right?
Yeah.
And that is the pain of being a colonial, well, a very spread out colonial. You can collapse very, very quickly to something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. The Portugal's saving grace was Holland, because the Netherlands were worse. Talking to the Netherlands they were very inactive for the start of the game, for sure, which is just the hardest time to be inactive. And I don't know why, but I found it really hard to talk to the Netherlands in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
See, this is
and
like I feel like the Netherlands is kind of well, the colonial powers in this variant, you're getting in really deep, right? You have to message so many people so much, and if you're not used to doing that, it can be quite like easy to fall into an activity. You cannot allow yourself to do that if you're going to be a colonial in this. You have to be really, really active. Yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
go on.
Yeah, especially when we say colonial, I am talking about the really truly spread out colonials, like Portugal and Netherlands in particular. I think Spain has an easier time of this because I have fewer neighbors despite being everywhere, especially if you consider these to not matter. If the Philippines aren't relevant, then I have many fewer neighbors because I'm just like a North America and South America regional with this stuff in Europe. I mean, it's more, but it's not crazy. Um, but again, I also have a stronger position in the areas where I am, and so it makes my negotiations just easier. If you're Netherlands and how are you gonna make value out of your army in Great Ardra and Fernando? Like, how do you do anything with these? Like, how do you convince Mali, I'm not gonna attack you with these armies? Like, you only have two armies. Like, well, you might attack me, and if you do, I want to take your centers anyways. And like, I don't know. It seems really hard. But negotiations with Netherlands, I was trying really hard to be open to. As I was going with the regionals, I was trying to do the same thing with Netherlands and with Portugal to say, tell me what you guys want. I will do it. I'll say yes. Portugal came to me and said, hey, here are the things that I want to do. And then Portugal came with the relatively explicit plan about how we can split up all of Indonesia. And in that split, Portugal ended up getting Timor, Dani, Wagimon, and Gunai, and Flores, I think. And then the Netherlands gets these centers that he has to fight Ayutthaya for, and then I got Zamboanga and then Formosa and like some centers off of this one. So it was a very aggressive split in favor of Portugal, but it was at least a split. And rather than attempting to negotiate with this or anything, Netherlands just didn't respond to it.
Ah.
And that's a tough way for the game to start. The main thing for me with the Netherlands was that I was talking with Netherlands about how we were going to split centers in Indonesia. And I was like, hey, I'll take Zamboanga and like I Cotabato makes sense for me, whatever. Like Manila, Philippines, Cebu, Sulu, etc. And then the Netherlands, rather than like saying what they were doing, what they wanted, said, I'll be taking the obvious centers.
Oh no.
Which was just the most frustrating opening like way to hear, because my god, I don't know what the obvious centers are to you. I haven't done everything, and even if I have a sense of what the obvious centers are, that's not your sense of the obvious centers.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man.
And like, I don't think there are necessarily like, maybe if I'm looking at this and I'm saying what are the obvious centers, I probably look at this and say, well, Kota Batu, Banjarmasin, Sumatra, maybe? But then Kota Batu is the only reasonable dot for you to get, like, for Spain to get with that Cebu fleet, right? So it's kind of, you could also say that Flores might be a natural center if you can negotiate.
Support yourself with the Flores.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Plus, Portugal is probably going for Dani, because Dani is a core that they want to claim as early as possible, and so Flores is probably uncontested.
Yeah, and like in standard diplomacy, I think you can get away quite often with saying, "Hey, I'm going for what what's assumed to be mine, because as like Turkey, you can say that about Bulgaria as Russia. It kind of leads people to think, oh, you're going for Sweden and Romania. Yeah, that's fine. But even there, it's not great if you're someone like France and you just reply to someone saying, hey, I'm going for my obvious ones. Like,
Yeah.
does that include Belgium? There's a lot
Yeah.
of stuff to negotiate, and in a variant like this, where there's no real
It's everyone's first time.
yeah, there's no real predefined meta, so people don't know what those initial obvious centers are. It's not a good way to open the game.
Yeah, and then also we have this fun area, right? In South America. Is St.
I
Louis
think
going
that
for
one
Amazon
does
Madeira?
kind of have obvious centers in that, like, Madeira is kind of Aymar and Netherlands kind of gets Amazon, and then you assume that Putumayo is Spanish. But then Spain can put an extra army on Madeira and go for both Putumayo and that if they want to.
That's one pronunciation. This one is the big one. It's Putumayo.
Putumayo. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. That's a big pronunciation thing that I want to nip before it gets too far.
Okay.
But yeah. So I do agree with you that I think Amazon is the most natural one, but I don't think it's so obvious. And I don't know, but that's the style, that was the opening of negotiations that I had with Netherlands. That just told me immediately, okay, Netherlands is going to have a rough game.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not a negotiating style that's going to be successful in games. Yeah, and I just knew that. So I'm like, oh, okay. So Portugal and Netherlands are both going to struggle. And I knew that day one. I put that somewhere in my void, I'm pretty sure. Which people should feel free to check out. I didn't do the best job writing in my void, but I started off the game really strong. And then we reached mid-game and I stopped being as active on it.
Yeah, just to clarify what that means, these were all hosted on Discord. You can go to those Discords and get a spectator role, or actually, on Ezio's one, you can just go to the Discord, because I think everything is open. And you can read through all of the negotiations if you want to. Don't read through all the negotiations, there's way too many. You can look back through a lot of conversation, you can look back through spectator chats, and you can look back through void channels, which are basically where people are encouraged to just go ahead and put their thoughts for what's been happening to them during the game. So Spain Void is where Ezio was giving his kind of running commentary on the game. And if you want to spectate an ongoing one, I am currently playing in Aster, which is the other one. And you can go in and grab a spectator role and do the same on that one. That's a live game. I haven't been updating my Void very much, but...
I highly recommend everyone goes into CaptainMeme's Void and starts giving him back tactical advice.
Oh no, see, precisely to stop that, I went ahead at the start of the game and said, hey, don't let anyone country spectate me. Which is, if you go and spectate one of these games, you are allowed to choose to be a spectator, in which case you get to see everything, right? But you're not allowed to talk to any of the players. Or you can be a country spectator, in which case you can see everything that country can see, so you can only see their negotiation channels, and you can talk to that country's player. But I just banned people from doing that, so so you would have to choose a different country to me. I don't think Ezio banned people from doing that on his.
No, everyone was happy to come into mine and give me any sort of backseating advice that they wanted, and I was ready to ignore all of it. But yes, so those were opening negotiations with Portugal and the Netherlands, which were, they told me a lot about the game and how I expected the game to flow. But I didn't have anything super concrete. Like, I didn't know there's no plans to attack Portugal, there's no plans to attack Netherlands. I'm not gonna, like, start making a coalition against them. I just have a feeling that I know, if we're playing Survivor, I know who's getting voted off the island. Right, it's going to be the inactives, the people who just aren't messaging, of which there were some people. Whatever, that's fine. People are going to be busy, and then it's going to be the next rung up. Right, it's like, okay, great. So we're not literally playing Survivor, but that was my feeling.
Yeah, okay. And quick note: the thing you say about not taking them out in 01 or not having early game plans to eliminate them. I think that's just a general thing in this variant because there's so many neutrals, right? No one's gonna be wanting to attack anyone else immediately. Usually. Obviously that can change a little bit, but...
Yeah, because there are so many neutrals, it takes a really powerful... You need to have a really powerful attack to cripple a big rival in order to do it in 01.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk too much about it, but yeah.
Alright.
Because, like, that's... I mean, in your game, right, there was, I think, a really clear argument for a big attack in 01.
I'm not going to talk about my
but
games.
We can't. Exactly. That's why I'm not going to take talking about it. Okay, so the other main colonial to talk about was France. So France, obviously, neighbors me at home. And abroad, we have relatively little to talk about. We are both in North America, and they have presence in the Caribbean. So they can be relevant if I am able to use them, like if they want to work together. So there's stuff there as well. But there isn't that much to talk about abroad. It's mostly at home. And when I talked to France, I had a sense that France was a solid player, but we got off very much on the wrong foot because France was very strongly demanding Corsica.
Ooh,
and
okay.
I went into this game saying, I'm going to say yes to everything that anyone asks of me in the early game because that's what I wanted to do. But demanding Corsica is one of those strategic things that makes me say, well, what on earth is going to happen? So what I want to avoid is a bunch of hostile fleets being built in the Med. Right, as we talked about, I have the most fleets in the Med at the start of the game, and I'm probably going to get a couple of centers. So if nobody builds any fleets, I'm going to have my centers in the Med, and I'm going to be safe and very happy. And great, I want nobody to build any fleets. So how do I stop any fleets from being built in the Med ever? And the way to do that is to have nobody feel threatened and to have nobody have taken anything they need to defend and reinforce. I also accept that I wasn't going to get away with 0 fleets ever, but I can try to keep the fleets to a minimum. If France takes Corsica with their fleet, they're going to see fleets in like Tyrrhenian Sea or Sicily and Sardinia and Baleares, and they're going to see, oh, if he wants to take Corsica, he'll just take Corsica. And so he'll build a fleet to try to make it harder for me to do that. Mm-hmm. I thought that was very likely. So I said, no, I don't want you to take Corsica. I'm going to take Corsica. I have a bunch of fleets. And he's like, no, I refuse. And then he said some nonsense about how it's the only center he can take because other units were going elsewhere and it was like impossible for him to get Luxembourg and Ghent or anything else. And I'm like, that's not accurate. I've talked to Netherlands and Austria, and I'm pretty confident you can get enough centers to double locally. All of these people can go get centers with your fleet Marseille taking Genoa. But like... pro tip, don't call somebody a liar in 01 to their face.
That's really did you? Like, I thought you were saying that you said this internally, not like...
yeah, I did say that internally. I didn't call him a liar to his face, but I'm just like, that's not... I understand, and you know what? It's okay. But I did it on the condition that if he built a fleet in Marseille, it would be all-out war.
Yep.
Which is definitely a great ultimatum to give somebody in 01 of the game.
Well,
but
you don't phrase it as an ultimatum, right? You just say to him, hey, you can have Corsica, but please don't put a fleet down in Marseille. And then
No, I did not. It was not that.
Oh, come on.
I was very clear about it. It's like, look, you can take Corsica, and that'll be okay. But if you put down a fleet in Marseille, then things are going to escalate quickly.
Yeah, so there's this thing in diplomacy called tact and finesse.
Yeah.
Which Ezio was...
Like I said, the negotiations with France were off to a very rocky start. I showed them with everyone else, except for France. And just that's how sometimes negotiations don't go as smoothly as you want them to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Sometimes you just clash with someone, right? But I feel like there are ways to go about that don't involve giving someone an ultimatum on turn 1.
Probably. But what I will tell you is I've had just a little bit of time to look at some of the chat logs after the fact, And I guarantee you, if I didn't give France the ultimatum, he was going to build a fleet in Marseille. But France was talking to everyone, engaged, like, does a war with Spain go well at the start? And he realized, no, actually, he doesn't think it will. And so he didn't build a fleet.
Okay.
Like, being so abrasive is often incorrect, and I strongly don't recommend it to anyone. I think it's not a good practice, but sometimes it does actually get you the one thing that you asked for. And with France, I had only one thing that I cared about, and that was that he did not build a fleet in Marseille. There was that everything else on the board, I don't care. Right? He can do whatever he wants in North America. I don't care if he lies to me about intel from England or Shoshone or whatever. I don't care about any of this stuff. As long as he doesn't put on a fleet, like if he tries to attack me just through this choke point, and if our Barcelona things go poorly for him, so he's not going to do that. He needs to have fleet support first. So like, there was the one thing I cared about. He seemed like he wanted to do it, and I was like, no, don't do that. And if you do, it will not go well. And then, hey, look, I got him to not do the thing. But we need to see stuff later. Sorry, we're still in negotiations. I was not happy with this relationship. The start of the game, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. He also gave people ultimatums, like he's going to be going into Gulf of Leon to take Corsica. I'm pretty sure. So he might just snipe Barcelona, and like that'd be exciting.
Well, can you not just ask him, hey, can you go through Ligurian Sea to take Corsica? Like,
he didn't have that type of friendly relationship. I'm trying to see if I can find that message where I talked to France about it. It's annoying because all of the things have now been made public, and so all of the other chat logs are here.
Yeah, and there's like 300 chats or whatever, so
there's a lot of chats. And yeah, and France put all of his in a different place than I put mine.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Found it.
So this is an interesting thing about how Discord works, right? The way that these are run is that you create your own chat room inside a category, but each one only had a certain number of chats that were allowed because of the way Discord works. You can only make 50 under one category, and there's so many people making them that like they end up getting spread out among all the categories, which is fine when you can only see your own ones. And then suddenly becomes a massive issue when it gets opened up to everyone, and you can no longer find anything anymore. But yeah, you found it, you said, right?
I did find the chat. So he says, hey, I will help you. I will take Corsica as a check against the Turks. And I'm like, excuse you? Did you see? What? How? What? Huh? And then, yeah, then I'm like, how does that help me as a check against the Turks? She's like, well, it's not aggressive towards you, and it's a move towards the Turks. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm in Naples. Whatever. Sure. Okay, and so then we have a start, and then I'm like, okay, long term, that's not going to work. That's like, we have a little bit of a thing when he like explains what he means by it. What do you mean by this? That's not going to work. Don't worry about it. Yeah, great. And I'm like, look, I was trying to be clear. Look, I view the Mediterranean as mine. I view you moving on the Med as hostile towards me. Like, yeah, no, okay. So that's fun. And then we have a tough negotiation, and then eventually I convince him, if you build a fleet, it's all gonna go poorly. I'll be at war, and that's not great. And then we'll see how things go. But we spent way too much time talking about just negotiation with France here. We are 45 minutes in, I think, to this, and we have not even finished most of our negotiations in 01. Ottomans exist. So if the Ottomans ask for Sicily, I'm fine with this. The Ottomans ask for Sicily in a nice way, and I'm like, okay, whatever, fine. I don't know the exact timing of these things, by the way. I don't know the chronological order, so that we're going through the map and where I remember things, not the actual order people reached out to me, which was a relevant part, because obviously people reaching out earlier is better, because it means I have fewer things locked in, and I am more flexible. But as more and more places get taken, it would have been fine. I think there's a chance if France had just asked for Corsica before it sold away Sicily, I would have then been harsher with the Ottomans, like, hey, can I have Sicily? Because France taking Corsica, yada yada, but that didn't happen. My relationship with the Ottomans at the start was very friendly, and I was just saying, hey, look, I'm not going to attack you. I'm not, like, I want to just have the Med, and then I want to build as few fleets as possible in general, and keep everything to a minimum so we don't have to worry about anything. Let's just be fine. And I realized if I had tried to take Sicily, Sicily would give me multiple fleets bordering Ionian, which is probably scary for the Ottomans. It's pressure on Tunis. I'll just sell Sicily. It's fine. I don't actually need it. There are enough centers for me to take everything else. Fine, no Sicily, whatever.
Mhm.
And then the Ottomans seemed quite happy with this. I mean, obviously, they're getting a center that they weren't otherwise entitled to. But I was worried that like Tunis can bounce me of other stuff. And whatever, if I just take Sicily, fine, no worries. Everything's okay.
Mhm.
Cool. That's everything I have to talk about with the Ottomans. They are big and they're strong.
Quick question for
Austria.
you in Europe as
Yeah.
well. That Madrid army, were you planning to convoy it out the first year?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to make peace with Portugal and peace with France. And like moving Madrid north is not good for peace with France. And after our negotiations already, it was tough. But I really was thinking of this exclusively against Portugal. Honest to God, I thought that this march up to Navarra and then Aquitaine was so brutal. I never even considered it,
Yeah.
which is something I probably was a strategic mistake. I think that was a much more viable path of attack than I
Um,
thought.
I don't know. I think it's not like that choke point is really hard to break through. We found this the biggest game of diplomacy ever, which is another series that we did, which was an 81 player chaos game essentially, and was set in the A1, the Alpha 1 version of this Europe, right? It had that same border, of course, and I was in that general region, so I was very clued into what was happening, and that border is not like feasible to push through without significant fleet support. There's just those just the way that it's set up with like two territories next to each other with Navarre and Barcelona, and then two territories next to each other again with Aquitaine and Occitania, and then another two like Bordeaux and Marseille. Just the fact that you can only fit 2 units through at a time means that if the other person gets 2 units there, you can't push any further. You need a fleet. So
Yep.
yeah, I think it's reasonable not to bother going north with that army.
Yeah, I think at the very start, I agree, it's probably not great, but I think convoying it out is a little bit too much. I think just keeping it around, it is still flexible to have there.
Mhm.
And so just not like keep it in Madrid. Say, hey, I need a unit my capital, it's fine. But either way, I agreed to convoy it out because that's what I thought was. I made that deal. It made Portugal happy. So great. I was just going to convoy to Tangier, and there it would sit. Or I think it would take Riff or Rabat. Yeah, I think it would take Rabat, and then sit there and be nice and happy.
Yeah, I think it's really nice to have an army in that area as well, because otherwise, like, fleets, because of Anfa, I think that's called,
Yeah.
aren't great in that area. You need an army that can go into any one of those three supply centers and control all of them, right?
Yep. Yeah. Rabat helps keep it. It's like it's the glue that holds these three together.
Yep.
Okay. Austria. Austria is an odd one. They are a small regional minor that I don't border much, but we do share a border, and they only have 4 centers, so they are the smallest power. Um, they're the smallest like regional in Europe. They're not the smallest, but everyone else in Europe has more centers than they do. I think Sweden doesn't, but Sweden's practically not in Europe,
Yeah.
so I don't really count them. I had like 3 messages to Sweden the entire game, and they were all messages that I sent them because Austria said, "Hey, pester Sweden about this." And a message to Sweden was, "Hey, Sweden, Austria asked me to tell you to do this."
uh,
So
that's
yeah,
always the way.
what a great way to have negotiations. But yes, so I thought that they were a very natural ally for me to have as Spain to just say, look, if things go south with France, and I have no reason to think things will go south with France, clearly no reason whatsoever, having an ally in the back pocket is useful. Also, if things go south against the Ottomans, having Austria strong as an ally makes a lot of sense because the Ottomans are big and scary, and so they have 2 mutual neighbors with me, and I think are therefore really nice to have as an ally. Also, just based on opening press, I thought they were great and easy to talk to, much like Shoshone and Inuit. I didn't talk about because I haven't, but their press was great and easy to talk to. So I'm like, all right, they're useful to have. I knew very early on they were leaking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about how early on, but I could tell that they were a leaker. Like you have those vibes when you talk to someone like, oh, this person's selling information to everyone.
Yes, I mean it's usually
Yeah.
when they're being a little too open about what they're hearing from other players with you, then you know that they're probably being just as open about what they're hearing from you with other players, right?
Yeah, but not it's more than that even. I don't know. It was but yes, stuff like that. Vibes I knew they were leaking my shit everywhere. But they're still solid to talk to, and the board position is such that I could talk with them easily, and so that's great.
Mhm.
And I slip ups too a couple times, right? Like there's only so much you can talk to with someone and like not slip up when talking to them. If you're making any plans, it's like really difficult to show enough trust, but also not reveal anything important to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's fun. It's easier in this one because I can talk to Austria about stuff that isn't particularly relevant to me. Um, like I don't care about a lot of the stuff that was going on. It's like we're talking about plus minus one or two centers, and again, I have 30 centers, or sorry, 16 centers. But I'm gonna get a lot. So plus minus one or two isn't that relevant. Um, the main thing though is that Austria's like, hey, let me take Rome,
Mhm.
and I'm like, what? I don't want why? Oh, because I need to take sinners and I can't double up. And Austria has a much better argument about this. Based on negotiation with France, I'm like, yeah, France ain't gonna let you take shit in Germany. Like they're gonna mess with you there. So I guess, and like your fleet in Trieste is annoying, but like just take whatever. And so I was just like, man, my fleet in Naples, right? My biggest area of strength in the entire map, I felt was the Mediterranean. And here's the region that everyone's being all demanding to me and saying, I want to take Corsica, I want to take Sicily, I want to take Rome. And I'm like, whatever, fine. I say yes to everyone. And so I agree that everyone is going to take Rome, Corsica, and Sicily.
Mhm.
Naples is not going to get a center in one.
Can it not just grab Sardinia? I guess actually no. You could. You've
Take,
got
it's other things
three.
to take
Yeah,
some
yeah,
like Barcelona can take it. And I'd rather sit in Trinity Sea because that borders 5 supply centers. That's straight up on the Foster, which only borders 4.
yep.
Um, I was really tempted to bounce France in 01, but I decided against it.
I
I was
still
like,
think you
nope.
should have just said to France, "Hey, please go to Ligurian." Like that's a completely reasonable request, right?
He might have done that. Honestly, I don't remember, but I was expecting it to be Gulf Leon. Like, I was ready for this to be like, all right, let's start sweating.
Alright.
Okay, so that was the Mediterranean negotiations, which are just so we're clear. Good talks with with Austria. Good talks with Ottomans. France struck me as someone that I could work with, and like had a good strategic sense of the board, but was just going to be an asshole in negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's fine. We're playing diplomacy, everybody. That's what's you're gonna. This is gonna happen. And again, I wasn't exactly the easiest person to talk to here because I, I don't know. It's like if you're playing, if you're Italy and Turkey's like, hey, I'm gonna just take Greece, and you're like, I guess, but like, right? It's like you don't want them to do that, but like, okay, but don't build the units that you're going to attack me with. Like, I don't know. Anyways, that was my negotiation with France. Workable though, I can make strategy with them, and I think they were a solid player. And many other players will feel less strongly about centers like this, and so I was worried they were going to be very strong in North America.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so France was someone that I was like, all right. Um, Once I see how things go, I start. It's not this year, but it's a little later. I start actively sabotaging the shit out of friends. Um, yeah, yeah.
Alright.
We'll
Let's
talk
talk
about
about
that
that
when we
when we
start getting
get there.
closer.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we get closer to that. Okay. Finally, the last area of the map. Thankfully, we've already touched on this a little bit, where we talked to Netherlands, and Netherlands was like, "I'll take the obvious centers," and I'm like, "Great, so you're taking Banjarmasin and Flores and Sumatra, not Cotabato," because I told him I wanted Cotabato.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever, and then that's fine. Talks to Ayutthaya. They were fine. Like they were an opening. I don't remember. They were very unremarkable. They told me they weren't going for Cotabato. I know for sure. Um, okay, the Ming I talked to a little bit, but they were one of the inactive players. Tokugawa I tried to talk to a little bit. They were very inactive.
You remember so much more about like the individual conversations than I do. I feel like my game, when we get to it, I'm gonna just be like, this is vaguely how this region went, and then we'll move on. But yeah, I mean, remembering that someone is inactive isn't too difficult, I suppose. But like all the interests
Yeah.
of the other ones.
Oh, okay. A challenge that I want to try in the future, seeing how much I can remember of O1 of this map.
Oh boy. All right.
Not doing it. For later. Not happening. Okay. But they said they weren't going for Kotobatsu. That was the relevant part. I'm okay with that. Ming was inactive. Tokugawa was inactive. Tokugawa was the big one because I know they're Japan. They have a lot of fleets. The North Pacific Ocean is the thing that I'm considering taking Hawaii. That was part of the negotiation with Shone, so I'm going to be bordering North Pacific, and I've got centers over here. If they go south, I'm really unhappy. I want them to just go west and just mess with Qing and Ming.
Mm-hmm.
Qing was someone I talked to early on, and I got the sense this person's going to have a solid game. They're a reasonable diplomacy player, and they talk and can make diplomacy noises.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I thought they were going to do well, and knowing that Ming was not around, I was like, all right, they're going to crush, and it's going to be ugly. So I thought, like, I thought they had a huge chance to just snowball and win as a regional minor, and get to an unstoppable victory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't talk much to Mughals, or Safavid, or Assyria, or Congo.
This
Ajuran.
was the other thing we got like 10 comments on the last video. That's Abyssinia, not Assyria. Apparently they're very different. I don't actually know where Assyria is, but Abyssinia is a different place.
Oh, I think was Assyria this one? I think Assyria might have been like a precursor to Persia.
I don't think they were on the Imperial Diplomacy map, but I think that they would be somewhere.
Oh yeah,
over
they're
there,
on. Yeah, I don't think they're on the Imperial map, but I think that's where Assyria was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're east of the Middle East. Yeah, they're over here.
I'm just preempting the comments.
Right.
You don't need to make the comments telling us that that's not Assyria, because we do know at this point.
I actually, again, I knew where Assyria was before I had to look it up to double check, and then I double checked it and was right. But yes, it's a more common name than Abyssinia. Okay, so Ajuran. Ajuran is Tyler. I've played in a game with him before. I know he's very talkative, so I had some chats with him. He was doing a pirate boat thing. Okay, part of why I knew that Portugal was going to explode was in negotiations that Tyler had with Portugal, where Tyler's role playing as a pirate. Portugal tells him he's not allowed to build any fleets. And it's like, what? And it's like, I kind of get it as Portugal, right? I'm like, hey, look, I have all of these coastal things in the area and like South Africa, and so I kind of am going to try to consolidate all of this, and I want to be the major naval power in the area. But like, you don't own all of this stuff. You're not. This isn't going to happen. And like, don't tell the guy who wants to be a pirate that he can't build boats. That's crazy. But then Tyler escalated, and then things got really heated, and that was not a pleasant part of the game because they had a falling out, and it was brutal.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the style of negotiation that be like demanding, overbearing bit. That's like, I don't think that's going to go well most of the time. And so that was part of the negotiations over there. But that's much. Okay, the last Mapuche. I'll go to Mali last. Mapuche was fine. I had like the shortest opening message with them, but also they were like, "Yeah, I'm happy to work with you, and we'll deal with Portugal." I think. Mm-hmm. I forget exactly who they said, but it was like 2 messages back and forth. I played with this person as well before, and I knew this was in line with them. And if they're allies with you, that's what they're gonna do. And I'm like, all right, great. Yeah, they send more messages if you're enemies. So, fewer messages, good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, so then Mali. Mali is a country that I looked at, and I'm like, oh god, they're just gonna win. Like, when looking at this map, I was like, I think Mali was the actual strongest country on the board. I think it's the best. And I'm like, they're going to get the 32, and I'm not going to be able to stop it. So I need to have good relations with them because they're going to be here at the end of the game.
Yeah.
I felt that in 01. I'm like, all right.
So I think the interesting thing is, right, technically there are enough enemy armies around them to corral them, but all those people
Yeah.
have to be working together, and that's really difficult when they're all colonials, because they'll probably be fighting somewhere else. At least some of them will be fighting somewhere else. And while technically, like, I feel like we discussed this in the last video as well. Technically, with colonials, there's this idea of you can be fighting in one theatre and working together in another, and everything will be fine. You can just pretend that there's separate boards, and yeah, there's a big threat in the theatre that you're working together, so there's a good reason to keep working together. In practice, it's not as easy as that. Yeah, people
Yeah.
don't like working together and working against each other in another theatre. They'll go, well, if that person's such a big threat over there, then you should piece me out in this other theatre so we can work together against them there. So someone like Mali, while theoretically there's enough armies around to corral, it's actually really difficult to get enough people on board to do so. At least that's my experience with it.
Yeah, and if all of these armies were owned by the same person, it's unclear to me that they win. Right? If you take these 4 armies and you have them all try to fight Mali, actually, I don't think Mali...
probably true.
Right? Like, this army is so far away, they might get there, and, like, if it's literal 1v1 with no fleets around, then maybe. But I felt that Mali was way strong, and I think Sahara gave them more leverage to expand quickly because they can reach further faster. And so they move so far. It's like such a stable thing to control with 3 armies. So I looked at this and I was like, all right, Mali's going to be huge. I want to be on their good side this whole game. But I suspect once they win, if I'm in Morocco, they're going to mess with me. So I don't want them to win that quickly. But I'm going to try to stay on their good side as much as possible whilst not actively helping them, which is a really hard place to be in. In diplomacy, because normally the way to get on someone's good side is to give them dots or help them take dots.
I feel like in this situation you've got an easier excuse, right? In that there isn't a huge amount you can do to directly help them.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. Okay. I think it's time. Oh, Alpha Pascha. I forgot to talk about. They were around a little bit. They were kind of friendly, and then Inuit was active, and they were one of the few people who opened a channel with me, actually, rather than making me open it with them. And they got things started to a good negotiations. They were around a lot. Inuit was great to talk to at the start also. Okay, now I've talked about everyone except Russia. Yeah, don't worry about Russia. And Poland. Don't worry about Poland. Yeah, whatever. I talked about all the people I'm going to talk about. We can go on to see some moves, guys. Aren't you happy? God. It's only been an hour.
Okay, so important note as we're seeing the moves here. In the previous game, like in Alpha 1, the whole thing was run by one guy. Three people, I think. And they would manually draw the arrows all over the map, right? And that's a lot of work. It's several hours of work every time. This time around, because there's so many games being played, they developed a bot instead. But the bot was not really ready when the game started. Like, they delayed it by about a week to give time to finish the bot, and then it was kind of half done, and they went for a sprint, and the poor bot developers, like, they were fixing stuff constantly during this opening phase of the game. So it might not be as obvious what's going on, just because a lot improves of how the bot draws things over the course of the game, right? And there will be the occasional misadjudication because the bot wasn't quite working. So if you see an army move from one place to another between 2 phases, like between the results and the next turn or something, that's probably what's happened. There's been a bot misadjudication, and then the GM has gone in and fixed it manually. But it was still amazing. And, like, these maps, they're not going to look as pretty as the last ones did, but they're still pretty solid, all things considered.
I love the straight lines. Yeah, I love how these go and the consistency of it.
Okay.
A huge shout out to Ice Cream Guy, who was Molly and one of the people who was developing it.
Yeah, Bumble as well. And I think I kind of want to shout out the other main person who did it, but I can't remember their name. Oh, Ebop. So I think mainly those 3. I've probably forgotten who else. But yeah. There you go. If you want to praise Bumble from the last the big diplomacy game,
Humble.
you can. Well, Bumble was a religion in the Chaos game, right? You went around murdering it.
Praise Bumble.
Well, he has returned in the form of a bot.
Yeah, the bot should have been the Bumble bot. That would have been great.
Uh,
Okay, so we have moves on the board. And it was a huge relief in 01 to see everyone stick to what they said they were doing.
mm-hmm.
Which was just great. Like I was really worried that I was just gonna get absolutely crushed in 01, that there were gonna be tons of armies in like Sonora and Kiowa, and then I was gonna like get blasted. Because like I'm not able to defend Nueva Vizcaya. Like if he'd just gone for it after selling me Apache, like I would have lost it. That would have been ugly. Like I was worried, right? Because it's 01. You never know what could happen, right? They might be like, oh my god, it's Ezio. We will kill Ezio. And then like, could have been really bad. Thankfully, I think the map is designed in such a way that it's really, really hard actually for anyone to kill Spain in 01.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's that. But I basically knew what all of my neighbors were doing, which was very convenient. It was nice to know that I wasn't being lied to right off the bat, and that's always a good litmus test. And you'll notice that France actually was very nice and moved into Ligurian Sea instead of Gulf of Leon.
Oh, there you go. I told you it was completely reasonable for them to for you to
Yeah,
ask
it
that
was
thing.
reasonable for them to do it, but like, haven't you've talked to someone where like, if it's the two of us and I'm Spain and you're France, do I have to tell you to go to Ligurian Sea?
No, I mean I would
Right?
just do that anyway. Yeah.
Exactly. And so like me telling like if he goes to Gulf of Leon, he knows what he's doing when he moves to Gulf of Leon, and it's like, all right, fine. Right? That's like, and that's the way that I tend to negotiate with people, and it works well when I'm on the same wavelength with the person I'm negotiating with. Sometimes I'm not, and then that's a problem because things get rough.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a fleet in Ghent. That's right. I was remembering moves that happened, and I was like, does Paris border Ghent? It does, but why? Great, that's fine. Okay. So other things. I was obviously correct about stuff that happened over here. And that France would have been able to take Strasbourg and Luxembourg if he'd wanted them instead of taking Corsica and Genoa. And so that was the nice, like, yep, this France is just asking for more than he's entitled to and being greedy about it. That's fine. If Lagisi doesn't build a fleet in Marseille, really, I don't care. Austria moved in a very funny way by moving into Trieste and Venice instead of into like Venice and Adriatic Sea or anything, and then like used Vienna to try to take Freiburg. So I can bounce them out of Rome if I want to, but I want to be friends. Let's not piss anyone off.
Yeah.
And so I'm not no bouncing in 01, especially not Austria, because Austria is only building 4 at best, and so denying a build is just crippling. But like, man, I could almost certainly take Rome, and right the way that he's going to move Trieste to Venice, Venice to Rome. So if I bounce him out of Rome, he then has an army in Trieste still, a fleet in Venice, and I can build a fleet in Naples and then bounce Adriatic and just like take Rome, and like everything's. I get Rome next year, but no, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe I
but
was
like
supposed to do this.
his moveset here is like very nice to you, right? Because if he goes to Adriatic Sea, it threatens Naples.
Naples.
I
Yeah,
assume
yeah,
that he's doing
yeah.
this out of the kindness of his heart.
No, I assume he's doing because he made a tactical oversight.
Yeah, it's true. Diplomacy players don't have kindness in their heart. You can't.
In this game, in this mode with multiple winners, I think you can have kindness in your heart for other players because they don't actually have to stab you. Right? In real diplomacy, if they want to win, they have to stab you. They cannot work with you until the end of the game. Like, if things go well, only one of you can win. The only way to have a solid alliance is to have you both die. Anyways, great. So Europe is good, and then Portugal is doing stuff. I don't really get it. I assume it was a DMC and Iberian current, so that's why Portugal to Lisbon. But whatever, it's fine. Things are going here. He's taking Rabat from Sea of Azores. I guess whatever, it's fine. He can't take Canaries, so I feel nice and safe. Everything's great over there. South America, everything's fine. Axura didn't go to Peru Basin. This was the move I was most worried about on the entire map. Because if he did this move, he's boarded 2 of my centers. He's also boarding Galapagos. Like, do I cover? Do I not? Do I just get bounced out of Galapagos? It's very committal from Aymara. And I didn't want to see him do it. And he didn't. And everything's great. And it looks like he's all set to double up, depending on what Portugal does. In the Caribbean, I've already talked to England about Belize, and so I'm happy that I'm just going to take Belize. That's great. Part of this though is I'm not going to take Havana, so that's fine. He gets Havana, but I get Belize. More than happy to. I love it.
So what's Gulf of Mexico doing then?
Nothing.
Okay, I mean that's
it's
completely fair.
Province.
I think Gulf of Mexico is like a super vital province for Spain, so just hanging around there is fine.
Yeah, borders 3 of my cores plus 2 extra centers. It's a good place to be. I have an excuse to be here, and then if I build a fleet in St. Augustine, I have a ton of pressure over the rest of the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Shoshone followed through. Everything's great. This 01 went as well as I could have hoped, except for this move into Celebes Sea, and this move into Flores Sea, and this army holding. The combination of moves. This exact combination of moves means that he can't take 3 centers without taking Cotabato.
Mm-hmm.
Because this army's not in Sumatra, so it can't even hope to take Andaman Islands or bounce anything over there. Which, that would have been a hope if he'd moved here first. But he didn't. He held. So this thing has to take Sumatra. Flores Sea can't take Sumatra, so it has to take Banjarmasin. And Celebes Sea has to take Cotabato. And I'm like, Netherlands, what? What are you doing? Excuse you? Huh? Very annoying. But as per my philosophy this game, I'm going to let him have it. And not in the, Plankton angry, now let him have it, in the SpongeBob, let him have it.
Wait, so you didn't even try to say, hey, are you going, Celebes to Banjar and supporting yourself to Sumatra or something?
Nope.
Oh, come on. You may as well, try and convince him not to go for the thing you want to get.
Nothing borders Sumatra.
Well, yeah, but there might have been something bordering, and that might be why he put 2 on it. Although, admittedly, he could have just walked into it instead and done the same thing.
Yep. Anyways, so I'm fine. I'm okay letting him have it. Also, you got the feeling when someone wants, they don't want to lie to you, but they don't want to tell you the thing that you don't want to hear. So they instead are try to be coy about it. Right?
Yeah.
I'm confident that's what this was.
Well, I was going to say, it's definitely not aggression towards you, right? Because Formosa heads to fucking Sea instead of Luzon Strait. It's not like Netherlands is actively trying to attack you. They're just clearly going for something that they agreed not to go for and hoping that doesn't annoy you too much, I guess. But yeah.
Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. So that's but if that's the worst thing that happens in 01 is I get bounced out of one of the 13 neutrals or whatever I'm supposed to take, fine. And I'm not going to take it. I'll just let him take it. Because I've done some quick numbers and I'm like, all right, I'm going to be going plus 11 or something, even without it. So whatever. I have never gained 11 centers in a turn of diplomacy before, period. So
you need to play more big
I got
maps.
11 on turn 1. Sorry?
You need to play more big maps.
I don't actually know if that's true after playing this game. There's something to be said for the beautiful smallness and the real diplomacy map is so much more intimate.
Mm-hmm.
Belgium, man. God, Belgium is so important. There is no equivalent to Belgium in this map. Nothing even close, because nobody cares about one center as much.
Mm-hmm.
Going from 3 to 4 is so important. Going from 8 to 9. Yeah, who gives?
Mm-hmm. I
All right.
think with like the main thing that makes me think that larger maps are a little bit worse is having to spend 2 hours talking to people every day.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
probably more than 2 hours if we are actually counting how much,
Dude, if
especially in the
we
early
add
game.
up, yeah, early game for sure. And if we add up the total number of hours I spent every day, there was a Saturday, the first Saturday I think of the game, which was like the fall. I think it was the winter to spring. What is the timing of it? It starts out in builds. Yeah, it was builds of this first year. I think I spent 10 hours at my computer typing that day
Oh boy.
for diplomacy. And then the next one was even longer after like an year or two. Yeah.
Ouch.
I think I spent like 12 hours on that Saturday. And it was just that's what was happening.
Just, I don't want to make this intimidate new diplomacy players away. You don't necessarily have to spend that long doing diplomacy stuff, but it is just one of the facts of diplomacy that the longer you spend doing stuff like this, generally the better you'll do, because if you're putting more effort into it, you're more likely to convince someone to do something.
Yep.
Um, yeah.
Being active, being available, being receptive. If anyone asks you a question, being able to answer it in a reasonable manner. My press style, I do the best by far when I am online with another person at the same time. And we have live messages going back and forth, or we can talk about things and say messages. That's what I do best. And that style is only effective if I'm online with them at the same time. So it's like, okay, if I want to talk to Amara, I need to be online with them. And if I want to talk to Shoshana, I need to be online with them. So if I need to talk to 12 different people, or God, 15 or something, I need to be online when all 15 of these people are online.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's how I played the early game. And it was a lot. It was a lot.
Mhm.
And you'll get to see if it paid off or not. Okay, so for centers, in South America, nobody claimed Cartagena or Caracas, and so I had my pick of them. I forget which one I took. I forget which one I took. We'll see. I don't remember well enough.
So did your Poland just say to you at the start, I'm not going for either of those? Like, I'm going to Barbados?
I don't think he said that. No. I think he was like, I don't think he said that either. But I moved to Orinoco anyways
Mm-hmm.
because that's the important province in the region, right? It borders all four.
Well, I mean,
So
Netherlands
I
can't
moved
be
there.
that happy about you moving to Orinoco, no? Because, like,
No, but what are they gonna do about it?
okay, yeah, fair enough. I mean,
They can't bounce me because then they don't get a center. So they were never going to do it. And plus, I wanted to make it clear early on that I'm going to move into Orinoco and I'm not going to attack him
mhm.
because then later on, when I do walk into Orinoco and attack him, it'll be less of like, oh my god, he moved into this place for the first time. I guess he's
uh,
going to attack me.
yeah, if you move in first to colour the province, then you have right to go there at any time, right? It's your territory.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad we're on the same page about that.
Oh boy. All right. Well, did you tell him about the Orinoco move in advance then?
I don't I mean, no, he didn't. We didn't have concrete discussions about moves in '01, Captain Meme. Otherwise, we wouldn't have bounced in Kodapatu.
Fair enough. All right. Sorry, I will
And
stop
sorry, we don't even
interrupting
bounce in
your go
Kodapatu.
through
No,
of.
no, please keep asking the questions because there are important questions that other people will also have.
Mhm.
I moved into Orinoco and I was going to take stuff, and I think I went for Cartagena because if I build a fleet in Panama, and Panama can get to Caracas, and I'd rather have a fleet in Caracas than Cartagena, and so I'm pretty sure that's what I do.
Mhm.
But let me, yes, because I'm pretty sure, yes, I'm confident. Don't ask me what my confidence level is, but I'm confident.
You're not
Okay,
confident enough to give a confidence level, but you're confident. Yeah. All right.
yeah, yeah. I'm
I did actually want to look real
75.
quick back at Aymara, right? You mentioned the Peru Basin is the scariest possible move because
Yep.
it threatens so much of Spain's like power in the region.
Boop, boop.
It's kind of interesting how Aymara is set up because that Axura unit is a fleet, right? And all of the other armies are pointed away from Spain. You can't get anything else on a Spanish province in the first year. So I think Peru Basin is it's a really effective move if they're going to attack Spain, but it's alone. There's no way you can back it up, so it's a really bad move for Aymara. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, that's why I didn't bounce. If I thought they had a real attack, I would just, you have to bounce it. Again, like I have enough units, I'm gonna get enough stuff. Like I could have maybe negotiated things differently and I used Mexico City to take Galapagos and I try to take this province instead. Question marks abound. But either way, I didn't think they were moving up to Peru Basin. I was pretty confident based on press and again, your point about tactics. I think it's just an annoying move. In a 1 versus 1 with these units against these units, you make that move every time and it's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not in that world, so I don't worry about it.
Yep.
Okay, so it's still 01. And at this point, actually, I think we can go pretty quickly into the fall because in the spring, it's pretty clear where everything is going based on negotiations. Like, I'm taking the centers that my units can take. I'm taking Sardinia, Baleares, I'm convoying into Tangier, I'm taking Marrakesh, she's taking Rabat. We go here. I'm taking one of these two. I forget which. This is taking that. This is taking that. This is taking that. This is taking that. This one's going here. This one's holding.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's clear where these units are going. Right, Quechua is going to Putumayo. This one is going to Madeira. This one's going to Borora. This one's going to one of these. I forget which. This one's going here. Stuff like that's all happening, and then. Here, I agreed to hold with Sulu C, because whatever, I'm here to make friends. And then Philippine C to Zamboanga. And so, like, those were the negotiations. And because everything followed through in the spring, I think the fall of this game is very straightforward.
Yes.
And that's just how this variant goes. And so I think actually we can go straight into fall or clean map. Technically, there's no retreats, but there are no retreats here. Then we go into clean map in the fall.
Yep.
Or we go into the fall moves. And we see that everything happened. People got their centers, no bounce out of Strasbourg because he's friends. That's great. And then people take the stuff. Turning C holds. And I input this hold. It's a very passive-aggressive hold. It, like, glares angrily at all of these people for being... demanding neighbors. Yes, this negotiation in Kato.
Oh wait, what? That
yes.
Look nice.
No, it doesn't, but it's so good. So this negotiation. So it was the board in 01 going into 02, or like in spring of 01 was under the impression, and I'm saying 01, the actual start date is something
1642, yeah, but
42. I'm going to call them 01 and 02.
In diplomacy terms, it would be 1901, like in standard diplomacy, so we refer to the first year as 01, second as 02, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, sorry for people who care about historical accuracy. I do not.
You didn't need to say that. Now we're going to get angry comments.
Come at me, angry commenters. I'm playing a game. Look at how this game plays out and tell me if this is historically accurate or not. Anyways. The common board consensus was that there was a Portugal-Spain alliance and an England-French alliance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this was just like the words going on in the board. It's unclear to me how many people actually thought that I was in an alliance with Portugal. Because I have been pretty clear that, look, I'm not attacking Portugal, but also, have you talked to them? Like, who wants to be allied to them? Certainly not me. But, like, I'm also not going to attack them ever. And I was clear about where I stood on this. And so I think that the people who had talked to me knew that I wasn't a threat to Juggernaut with Portugal, at least based on what I was saying. So, but EF was another story because from the outside, it definitely seemed like they were coordinating well, they were talking to each other, and they were both active enough to make you worried they were talking to other people, but not active enough to make you feel good about their relationship with you.
Ah, I see.
It's the like, oh, that's the doom level. Because if they don't say anything in press and nobody's ever heard anything from them, then they're going to be like Netherlands or Portugal, where it's like, yeah, I haven't heard from them. Have you? No. All right. Hope they come back. Versus be like, hey, have you heard anything from France? And I had heard from France because I was talking to them. And so when Shogun is like, hey, you heard anything from France? Oh yeah, he was online like half an hour ago. Shogun's like, thanks. Right, that's like a very effective. Also, by the way, if you ever want to lie to anyone and they ask you if you've heard from someone, you have.
That is great. Yeah, you say, hey, they checked in with me a couple of hours ago. Yeah, we talked a little bit about some stuff that didn't matter too much, but like,
we had a little bit of relevancy. Yeah, just they were. Yeah, they said.
Why haven't they answered my vital message yet?
Because that's why they're asking that question. That's always what they mean to say, and so. And it's a very subtle lie, and it's really hard for them to ever like get back to it. And you know that their relationship with this person isn't great, which is why they're asking you instead of that person and just sending another ping to say, "Hey, are you around?" And like, are they going to fall and be like, "Hey, did you talk to Spain at 11:30 yesterday?" No, of course not.
No one is ever going to trust you when you say that again.
Okay, but also it's most of the time I don't lie about it, and I didn't even lie about it here. By the way, I didn't lie about it this game, but it's the most effective. Just like Neil, it does such a good job in these online games. Tips of the trade.
This is absolutely like the best lies in diplomacy are ones that people would never think to check, right? And this is absolutely one of those. You don't
think to check that? Sorry.
Well, no, as in you wouldn't go to that person and say, hey, did you message Spain earlier? Right? Something along those lines. It's just like.
But in my defense, that never that actually always happened, right? Like France was talking to me this game, and he was, I think, less active with the other people.
Yes.
And so, and England too. England was less active with me, but even still, people were very tense about England and France here. And so, I think it was very early in this game, it might have been this literal first turn, that the 3 regional miners were all like, hey, look, we want to kick out England and France here. Death to the colonizers. Spain, you'll be an honorary regional. And I was like, oh, okay.
God, that is not what you want to hear.
It's a thing. It's like, okay, that's fine, because I do think it's much easier for them to coordinate against France and England than it is for them to coordinate against me. I mostly look, if Shoshone doesn't attack me, I'm fine.
Yes.
So make sure they're on side. And so there was this, I think, chat that was made at some points where it was this one. Yes. Anti-Eleanor de Aquitaine. And yes, it was put together in this spring phase. And so this was made by Shoshone, who was like, hey, let's all kill England and France. And maybe Netherlands too, but we think Netherlands will be done by the time we get there. And then it had this nice MS Paint map that I'll send actually to you if I can. Forward to CaptainMeme. This was the idea, which is basically Shoshone, Athapaska, and Inuit all push east, and I mess with them in the Caribbean, and then maybe do something with them in the Atlantic. Which I said, this is wonderful. I'm already in a good position in the Caribbean because I'm going to get Belize. So let's have a great time. And I'm happy to support this. Anything that involves them not attacking me is great. I am a little concerned that this plan involves Shoshone getting Missouri and Cherokee. And presumably Iowa and Ojibwe,
Yeah.
and the rest of them. But like, yeah, we'll see. Things will whatever. It's fine. Most important is to say yes and get them on side. And
Mhm.
so I looked at trying to get Shoshone to the east as quickly as possible. I observed that Cherokee is it's a landlocked province, and England Start has a bunch of fleets. And even if England builds an army in Norfolk, if Shoshone gets a jump into Caddo, they can walk into Cherokee uncontested in the spring next year. And so the only no one can stop it, basically, if they go into Caddo in the fall here.
Mhm.
And so here was my talk to Shoshone as part of making sure they stay outside was go take Caddo. And then schlep your army out more to the east and take Cherokee. And this is one of those scary negotiations, those deals that you make that they're always going to say yes to, right? And that's a good thing. It's nice to have a thing where you know the other person is going to be outside. The scary part is it doesn't lock them into an attack. I think it gives them a good attack against France afterwards because if they're in Cherokee, tactically they can support themselves into Missouri next fall. Illinois they're going to be flanked in, and so it gives them good potential to attack France. But it also gives them good potential to attack me. I'm not worried about them stabbing me next spring or whatever. I think I built an army because I have so many builds, and I think I can put it to help defend myself. So it's not a spring, it's not an immediate stab. It's a long term. If Shoshone has the entire US up to Cherokee, right? And they decide to stab me, they'll get a good surround. And if they stab me and they have support in the Pacific, suddenly they have a beautiful arc over all of my stuff and things go pretty poorly for me.
Mhm.
So long term, it's going to make things tough. But if I agree to this, that's always going to be the case. And I just have to hope that France looks like a juicier target. And that is something that I am absolutely certain of. France is going to be easier to capture than me. And I'm going to ensure that it stays the case. My fleet in Gulf of Mexico helps with this because it can hold things. I'm going to build more armies, and I'm going to be just tough. Plus, France is getting attacked on the other side. You'll notice this turn with this support decree, France got bounced out of here, and France got bounced out of this one.
Anticosti.
I don't know the name of it. Yeah, whatever.
You may as well
Um,
try them. But yeah.
I can't read it. There's the line
Oh
through
yeah.
it. I don't know what
Fair.
letters those are. That's my excuse. Um, and so this start if Athapaska and Inuit are also pressuring England and France here, then Shoshone is going to make so much more progress against
France.
France
Yeah.
than against me. So I'm going to be safe in that regard. So I proposed this, and Shoshone said yes. And I think this was start of the foundation of a good alliance, as both partners are suggesting things to the other to make things happen. And hey, I'm telling you, I am comfortable with you being here. Contrast this to my negotiations. Oh, I did take Caracas. Um, Contrast this with my negotiations or lack thereof with Netherlands or with France, where we're not able to talk about these sorts of things. We're not proposing stuff to be helpful to anyone. I don't know, man. It all ain't great.
Mhm.
So this was I felt really good about this to start, and I was right about Shoshone getting really strong and being massive and being to my north because God, Nueva Vizcaya is so exposed.
It
I
is.
just hate it.
I also hate it. Just that extra little bit that it goes up into Kiowa is so annoying. If Sonora cut that off, it would be an incredibly defensible province. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Or
it's
if Apache cut it off, right? But just yeah. Yep. So I was right about this one getting sniped many points in this game, and this is the type of core that gets you into wars because it's a core that's relatively exposed, but once they take it, they have to keep going. It's not a thing that you can just secede, like Naples. Naples can just get cut, and okay, fine. Where do they go after taking Naples? Question marks. Or whatever. Both of these. Yeah. Okay. You lose Manila, you lose Cebu, you lose Zamboanga. It's bad, but where do they go after that? But nope, if you lose Nueva, they're gonna try to take Saltillo.
Yep.
Probably. So notably, if they take Nueva with the fleet and they don't do anything else, maybe you can do a thing like St. Petersburg and be like, all right, glares angrily, but it's fine. I was worried about it, but it's fine. It worked out. Okay. Other important things as far as global map dynamics. So I think it's at this point that Ageron has started telling people, hey, let's try to get a coalition together against Portugal. I think it's already started. Let's get people, and I'm like, all right, go for it. Go do your thing, buddy. Whatever. I don't care. I'm not attacking him. Like, I'm at peace. I've had good relationships with the guy. And knowing that I have been able to negotiate with him and make a solid trust base when nobody else has that, oh, that feels so good.
It really does.
Because he's not going to attack me. He's everyone else is going to attack him and they're going to kill him, so I'm safe. Netherlands, similarly. He's getting crushed. He's losing Ghent. It's a yikes.
Yeah, he got walked in on in North America too, right? I saw that the Brits went into New Amsterdam.
Yep.
Yep, painful.
And then France tried to bounce him out of Belgium, but Netherlands saw this one coming, and so supported himself in here.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't go too terribly for him everywhere, but got bounced out of not Madeira, Mandara, I think. And then I'm the only one in the world who didn't mess with him. Look at me.
You supported him in. Oh, you didn't do like the passive-aggressive hold on that one. You were like, I
did not.
Netherlands to feel very comfortable.
Yeah, because here, if I have to support one person in, right? Oh. I don't want the others to feel left out.
Yeah, that makes sense, That really does.
So I support one person in, and it's Netherlands and Dakota Batu, and this is me rolling my eyes. I'm unhappy. And like looking at how this went for Netherlands, I'm like, dude, your position is so screwed. But he's also Netherlands. Like, I don't think you joined this game with Netherlands expecting to do well.
Yeah, and Netherlands is one of those powers you go, I think I'm going to have an interesting time dying.
Yes, interesting is a good way to put it. Yeah, I don't know. So I know that Netherlands' position globally is already crumbling, and Portugal's position. Let's actually go into builds, and then we can talk about Portugal's position.
Yes. So quickly first, this leaderboard on the right-hand side, it looks very nice. Unfortunately, the bot did not work with it for the first, I think, until 1646. So you're going to see a big, ugly thing pasted on top of it for the rest of these phases going forward until 1646. Which I say it's big and ugly. It's quite nice. It just doesn't fit with the aesthetic of the board because it's pasted from somewhere else. Which will show you how many builds each power has, how many centers they have, and how. Well, I guess there's a retreat phase first. Sorry.
Map. Then there's map updates. The coloring in of the map. And maybe retreats?
I think the colouring in on the map happens after the full phase here with the initial bot.
And then there's retreats.
Yes, but then there you go.
We have the build.
It's over here. And so if you
this
zoom
is
in,
pre-adjustment. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. If you
so
zoom
units
in
haven't actually been placed here.
That is going to stay like that for the whole. Oh, okay. That's going to stay like that for the whole year. It's just going to be there. It's not going to be accurate for the rest of the year on the build side of things, because obviously players don't have those builds once they've built them, but it'll still be there. But it's ordered by the victory condition percentage, which is how far towards your victory condition you are relative to that victory condition. So here, France is up in the lead because they didn't quite double. They got 12 builds, but they got 12 builds compared to your 12 builds. You started on 16, they started on 14, so it's a greater percentage towards their victory condition, right? Then, we sadly see down there at the bottom, Ming got no builds at all.
And no builds in this variant is truly, truly something to behold. There was an initial arrangement between Ayutthaya and Mughals to take etc. from them, and then they also got bounced and stuff. We can actually double check just how brutal it was for them. Oh yeah, they went for this convoy into
Ouch.
Hanyang, and they were only going to get one neutral in Hanoi, and they lost the center. Yeah, just a rough start, rough start for me.
Yeah, I should point out. I think Pyongyang is an interesting province for with the bot because quite often that fleet will appear on the wrong coast. It was on the west
Sure.
coast for the whole thing, but it looked like it was on the east coast during that bounce Hanyang. That wouldn't have been possible.
Would not have been possible. Yeah, I. It doesn't really matter what's going on over here in Asia. Like, really, like again,
Yep, that's fair.
Russia's not that important to me. Sweden is not that important to me. Shit, even England isn't that important to me. But England is relevant here, I guess.
Mhm.
Anyways, so we have builds, which was like the first really significant time for a lot of discussions to happen because builds are like I felt like the spring and fall in these games were all incredibly natural. There were a couple of minor things that are unusual, I think, like France taking Ghent in '01. I think the collapse of the Ming so quickly. I think like the this go Cotabato. There's a couple of these minor, very subtle changes of the map, but I think mostly this is how like the entire first year is going to look for everyone. I think generally,
Mhm.
um, and so these builds felt like the first real decision points because here's where I can choose a lot. I can plop down 3 armies in Nueva, Saltillo, San Agustin, and say I'm going to try to contest North America. I'm going to try to fight and try to like get Missouri and Cherokee or whatever. Or I can build a lot of fleets and say I'm going to try to fight for the Caribbean, or I'm going to build a lot of fleets on the Pacific and try to get South Pacific, North Pacific, and like try to unite the Philippine colonies. This is where I felt like I had flexibility. I can plop down 3 fleets in an army and say I'm going hard in
The med.
in
Yeah.
Iberia, right? Try to take them in, and like I have tons of flexibility, and it's really strategically committal to make builds.
Mhm.
But I need to make some builds because I don't. If I don't build anything, I get crushed. And so, and I have 12 of them. Yeah. So that felt good, getting 12 builds. And so I was deciding where to put them. That's where most of my negotiations were this term, trying to talk to people to be like, hey, how do we do stuff? It's my biggest one obviously was talk to France to say no fleet Marseille. And I think I was talking to Ottomans, and I'm like, all right, I don't think we can get away with literal 0 fleets getting built in Tunis, like no fleets in the Med at all. So I think I agree. I think I decided we were each going to build 1 fleet, Ottomans and I.
Mhm.
Pretty. And then I didn't want to build any armies, and I talked to Portugal. I'm like, yo, no armies in Iberia. We're golden. He's golden. Wonderful. So fine with fleets, whatever. He can do stuff. I don't really care. Um, okay. Then in South America. So one of the things that I glossed over that I shouldn't have glossed over was that Portugal bounced Aymara out of 2 centers
Ooh.
in the spring. And this was the part of where my relationship with Portugal didn't quite go great. Portugal really wanted me to commit very heavily against Aymara immediately. Like Portugal was like, "Yo, you should move to Peru Basin and try to snipe Axura." And like I can make the snipe for Axura. I can move into Quechua and like be a pain. I can support myself in. I can do all sorts of stuff and go really hard against Aymara.
Yeah.
And in a different universe, I probably go for that line. Just a really really strong commitment. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to play the field,
Mhm.
and I needed to sit back and see what happens. And in this case, Portugal's made the commitment already by bouncing Borora Asuncion. So they've made an enemy, and they're not strong. If you look at the builds, Portugal is only building 10, quote unquote, only. Um, but if you look at Portugal, they have to defend everywhere because of how Portugal is. They're still weak in all of their regions. Like if they want to reinforce South Africa, I think they need to put down 3 builds over there. Okay. If they want to hold stuff over here, they need to put builds down. South America, they need builds. Are they gonna risk Iberia if they don't build anything? Oof, I don't know, man. Right. So that's the scary part of Portugal is where do they cut builds? And then you can capitalize on them there. I don't expect them to cut builds in South America, but maybe they have to. But this aggressive bounce solidified Aymara as anti-Portugal.
Yes.
And so that meant that Mapuche and I can choose if you want to side with Portugal or Aymara. And for me, I don't really have to decide, frankly. I can just stay out of it because, I don't know.
Yeah.
Why would I commit?
I mean, it's really nice to be in that position, right? Where someone else has already committed, so you can just sit back and say, okay, you guys fight. I'll do my thing. I'll come in when it benefits me the most.
Exactly. And that's annoying for Portugal, I'm sure, and Aymara. But, I mean, Aymara doesn't want me to commit, because if I commit, it's just killing Aymara.
Yeah.
The only thing Aymara can do is, please don't kill me. And all right, sure, go for it. And then I talked to Mapuche, but my talks with Mapuche, again, were so short. We said nothing this game, ever. We had, 2 sentences every phase, but I'm confident they were... I think I talked a lot to them. Because I actually heard from them every phase.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they did that to everyone. Let me see if I can find it. But anyways, the point is, I'm here, I want them to make a decision, and then just keep me in the loop, but I'm not really going to do anything either way. If they attack Aymara, I might hop in for a little bit of juice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, actually, I'm sorry. There was a little bit more than that than I thought at the start of the game. We, actually had... Okay, I say we. I sent, 8 messages and he sent 2.
Mm-hmm.
That counts. Whatever. Things worked out.
Always a good attitude to have in diplomacy. This is
Really? Yeah, no, they didn't stab me. And so my press with them was perfect. That's the answer. I did it exactly right. So, yes. But, so here, South America, I don't know, where do I want to do? What I settled on was trying to be inoffensive most everywhere, but also not so weak that I can be attacked. And that was my goal everywhere. And so I think I ended up building, maybe, fleet. I think Mexico City East? No, I think Mexico City West Coast fleet was a big one. And then I think Army Saltillo, Fleet St. Augustine, Fleet Panama North Coast, I think Army Lima, I think Fleet Quito.
You know, you don't have to guess what you build. You can just go through to the builds.
No. I definitely built 2 fleets here. This was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't build in Naples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like you got them right.
I built an Army Quito, not fleet. Sure. It's fine. Fleet Barcelona, Army Marseille.
Yay!
Mission accomplished. War has been avoided this day. Yes. Peace. Also, thanks for giving me Corsica. I appreciate it.
You are just gonna take that back now, right?
Don't worry about it. We'll see. Anyways, he didn't build a fleet in Marseille, so he can't defend Corsica. Wonderful.
I noticed no Ottoman builds in Tunis, which is nice. There's just
yes, fleet in Athens.
Fleet
yes,
Athens.
that is part of the discussion. So I'm like, look, you can build a fleet. That's fine. I understand. If I build a fleet, we want to keep stuff down, but no fleet in Tunis. Jesus, come on, man! Look at all this stuff.
Fleet
No, I like
Trebizond is interesting because it can only do one thing. And then it has to go out to the med. So you gotta be wary about this kind of stuff eventually.
Yes. Yep, eventually. And eventually was the name of the game. It's I think at some point they're probably going to attack me, but it's probably fine. And again, I can't say no fleet Trebizond. And even if it does get out, there's already a fleet in the Black Sea. And that fleet, it can go from Black Sea to Constantinople to Aegean to Ionian. But that's very slow.
Yeah.
So I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, it's only really Athens you need to worry about. Athens and Sicily.
Yeah, Fleet Athens was the primary one. Yep, and what are they going to do? Take Naples? Yeah, that's probably all they can do. So I'm not too worried about that. Naples isn't that much of a threat. As long as they don't start pushing in, I'm fine. And France not building was the main thing. And again, no fleet in Tunis. So the Western Med is still incredibly Spain dominated and peaceful at the moment. So that's great. No builds here. That's wonderful. One of the main things that I did was I actually waived 2 builds. Okay. Which is something that I don't recommend doing
Yeah, I
in any
wouldn't
real game
recommend
of diplomacy.
that either.
Well, in this game, I am. Where should I have built, Captain Meme? You're
Army
gonna say
Madrid,
armies.
Army Gibraltar. I feel like you
Yeah.
could have gotten away with saying, "Hey, I would like to put down Army Valencia so that I can convoy it over to Africa or something."
Okay. And then what
Where
happens if
and
I
like
don't convoy
Fleet
over to Africa?
Naples, surely that's fine. I mean, I guess you don't need that many fleets over there. Maybe that it's better to keep the build in reserve. But like, it just feels bad to wave builds, especially in 1901. Well, in 1642, I suppose.
Yeah, in '01. So I generally agree. I think that Fleet Naples will piss off the Ottomans.
Hmm.
We talked about it. If I build Fleet Naples and I didn't, I either could have stabbed Ottomans and built Fleet Naples after telling them I wouldn't. That's really bad. Or I agree to build Fleet Naples and Fleet Barcelona, and he just builds Fleet Tunis. So,
Hmm.
would you rather have a fleet in Naples and an Ottoman fleet in Tunis, or
No,
no fleet in Naples,
I
no
would
Ottoman fleet
rather
in Tunis?
wave Naples
Yeah.
definitely.
So I'll just waive that, right? I don't want to build a fleet here. Do I want to build an army here and tell Austria I'm going to try to take Rome? No. So I'm going to waive Naples. That's fine. Do I want to build Army Madrid and risk Army Porto or Army Lisbon?
Yeah, see,
I don't
this
want
is
to do
why I
that.
said Army Valencia, right? Because Valencia can't get to Porto or Lisbon in a year, so it's kind
Sure.
of a thing where you say, okay, this is going to get
Defensive move
convoyed.
only.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess a convoy is going to sit around in Valencia, but I want to be defensive.
Hmm.
Yep, I agree. I think Army Valencia is a build I should have considered more than I did. But Fleet Canaries, we are talking about it. I'm selling off Canaries, and it has to go west. Basically, like it's going to go through Portuguese stuff, and I don't really want to deal with that. I think I should have. I think this is one that on look back I should have tried to do, and say, hey, look, I'll send it out via Sintra and Seaward because I want to have a fleet in the eastern part of the Caribbean because I already had recognized my strategy of prioritizing the Caribbean,
Hmm.
and so trying to capture the Caribbean without any Eastern support is going to potentially be a pain. And so having a fleet here that can like sit in North Atlantic Ocean and like claim that I'm not attacking anyone and then slide in could have been very useful.
Another
But I didn't do that.
potential option, if Portugal wouldn't let you do that, which is kind of possible, you could build army canaries and then convoy it over to Marrakesh or something, right?
Yeah, but I don't want that. I don't want more armies on Africa.
Oh, see, this is just the difference in our game styles for these games, but I feel like you need armies in that area in order to keep it long term, right?
Yeah,
Um,
well, you might be right.
well, all
Well,
right, we'll
we'll,
see.
we'll see. I don't know, man. But I already have an army here, and
Hmm.
like Ottomans. Oh look, man, they can maybe take a center or two, but they're not going to get anything from it. And like, is Mali going to attack me? They got to deal with so much other stuff first. And Portugal? Well, they didn't build anything, right? They have 2 units and 4 dots.
Yep.
So if I can keep them feeling comfortable and moving their units out, I just get everything. So
Yeah,
yeah,
fair
I don't
enough.
know. I think '01 I didn't want to do this. Plus, by waiving 2 builds, it makes it much harder for me to be disbanding next year. Like I'm not expecting to disband. I'm expecting to go positive still, but by keeping a couple of builds in reserve, I retain that flexibility. Because yes, I think I would rather have an army in Canaries than no army. Period. I think that is true.
Hmm.
But I would rather than have an army in Canaries have a potential fleet in Cebu if I need one. Like I can envision a world where I'm like +1 or +2 next year, and I really want Army Lima, Army Bogota, Fleet Panama, Fleet St. Augustine, and Fleet Cebu. And because I have an army sitting in Marrakesh that I convoyed over, I can't build one of those far more important units.
Yeah,
And I
that's
really
fair.
wanted that flexibility.
I think that's smart.
Plus, not pissing anyone off. Yeah, so that's why I waved 2. And if we look at builds, we see these builds, I think, were incredibly favorable for me. Um, so, the biggest one, the single biggest, is Army Marseille instead of a fleet. The wave in Tunis is wonderful. You love to see it. Army Trieste, not a fleet. You love to see it. They're not going to go for Naples.
Hmm.
Um, in North America, wave in Yakutsk. That's the scarier province, because Yakutsk can go to Visconio Bay and then maybe go to Sea of Cortez and stuff. So I'd much prefer a fleet up north. Only minor. And the scary part is these are still the most favorable builds that Shoshone could do, and it still involves 3 armies, and they still can maybe take Nueva. And it's like, and they still have a fleet here. And so it's this like scary bit of like every spring there's going to be a butt clench. Does Shoshone stab me?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's every single spring.
I feel like an interesting part of your decision making there was offering them Aquala, right? In return for Hawaii. I would always want to do that the other way around. Like, say I get Aquala and you get Hawaii, because just the threat of going to Sea of Cortez is horrible.
It's not pleasant.
Yeah. Like, did they request Aquala, or did you just decide to let them...
Oh, remember, in my negotiations and all of these things, I let the regional miners say what they wanted, and I gave it to them.
Mm-hmm. And they said they want Aquala.
Yeah, I would get Apache, they would get that one, and then I get Hawaii. And I think Apache was always mine. They're like, look, between Aquala and Hawaii, I'll take that one, you take that one. Mm-hmm. And I was fine with it. And it's like, it's not the most pleasant thing in the world. I agree. But I have a fleet in Hawaii. I've got fleets in Indonesia. Maybe my fleet in Hawaii goes via North Pacific, and I try to like collapse on it from both sides, and like have some stuff. And I don't know. Maybe it'll be fine. Again, it's only one center, right? Like the worst case is they stab me in Hawaii, and how bad is that? And like Aquala. Look, I built a fleet in Mexico City, West Coast. One of the things was in part of their strategy, they're like, hey, build a fleet in Mexico City, East Coast, and like really put down all of the fleets you can to really pressure the Caribbean. And like I said yes to all of these things, and then like, oops, I built a fleet in Mexico City, West Coast. It wasn't like a misorder, like I wasn't explicitly misordered. It was like I just didn't really notice that thing. So yeah, all right. And then I'm stay safe because I don't want to build a fleet in the East Coast and have them guaranteed move to Sea of Cortez.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's a good way to die.
It's a good way to induce a stab, right? Because somebody can trust you. You can have a great alliance with someone, and then you just give them too golden of an opportunity, and they can't resist.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that they never have too golden of an opportunity, basically.
Yes.
Okay. So big. Great. So that was negotiations over here. Things are going well. And then down south. Army Axura was one that surprised me. I think this was because he was like, hey, don't build an army in Lima. And I was like, I'm building an army in Lima, but like, you're at war with Portugal, dude. Like, I'm not attacking you. I'm just like, he's saying, look, what's your army in Lima gonna do? And I'm like, not attack you? Question mark. But he's like, dude, the only center it can take is one of mine. What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm not gonna take it. I'm not gonna take anything. It's fine. I just need more armies, man. I don't want to. Like, I don't know. I probably could have waived this one too. Got him to put his army in like Chapaya instead. But, whatever. He can't. What is he gonna take anything from me? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So,
see, this is another horrible thing about the Aymara starting position, right? If they want to attack you, they want to build a fleet and an army in Axura at the same time.
Yeah.
Which they can't do.
It's absolutely untenable. They cannot attack.
It's horrible.
Yeah, which is why they're a great ally to have, because like they can't attack you, and you can attack them, and they're a buffer against other enemies. So that's great. This army build in Pamurbo from the Netherlands was surprising, but I don't know. It's whatever, I guess. They didn't have that many builds, I seem to recall. They only had 8. Yeah, they had a rough time of it. But no fleet in Manado, which was nice. Like, I'm happy with that. The person whose builds are also super favorable to me were Portugal, right? So obviously no builds anywhere in Iberia. This is wonderful. Like, Portugal had 10 builds, so he can build in 10 of his cores and only wave it in 3, or only wave it in 6. And 3 of those were the ones near me. Beautiful. Glorious start.
That is really
And then he builds 2 armies right next to Mali. Mali's like, what? Excuse you? What, huh? Do you, like, know that I have eyes? Like, what? You're gonna take the two Polish centers? Like, what? What? So Mali is pissed at Portugal now because Portugal's like, this is as close to declaration of war. Army Cabo Verde. Like, what are you doing, man? Um. Anyways, so and then he built two armies down here. He waved one. So he's built enough to be annoying and threatening, but not enough to like
Win.
do everything. Plus, he doesn't have any fleets in the region. His one fleet that I think was here is now in South Atlantic Ocean. So it's not even able to really defend and push. I think it's because here he's saying, hey, I'm all about Aymara. I don't want to fight Mapuche at all. And I think this was his way of saying, look, I'm not interested in the coast. I'm just going inland. I'll build armies. But that's a clear long-term threat to both of these guys because these armies are not leaving. So his threat level goes up and his defense level doesn't go up by the same amount, which is a bad place to be. So that's scary for him. And then, yeah, he builds stuff in South Africa. He's going to be strong here. Understood. Good for him. And then fleets up in India. I didn't talk too much about India, but it's like Mughals are going to kill everyone. And that's long and short of it. I haven't talked about Mughals at all. Mughals strong. They took stuff. They have an ally. Mughals scary. We'll deal with them later, I guess. Tokugawa. Tokugawa got subbed out for 12 hours, and in those 12 hours, I talked more to the Tokugawa player than in the entire rest of the game combined. But then the original Tokugawa player subbed back in and went back to not saying anything.
Okay. That's a painful one, because, like, it looks like Tokugawa is a long way away from you, right? But that's because this North Pacific Ocean is wrapping around the map. Obviously they have threats in Philippine Sea, but you're also in Hawaii, which is just the provinces around the high seas are so interesting in this variant, in that you will never be able to keep them if someone really wants to take it away from you, right? Stuff like Bermuda, Azores,
Whoa. You'll never be able to keep it unless you control that ocean.
Yes, exactly. But, like, if someone really wants to slip into that ocean, they can also put a lot of pressure on one of your ocean points, and there's no way you can defend the whole ocean, right?
Watch me.
Okay, so say you have 5 fleets in North Pacific Ocean. What are they going to do to stop someone with 3 fleets adjacent from pushing into one of those North Pacific Ocean territories? You can
have every center adjacent to North Pacific.
Yeah, but then you could accidentally slip out for real with one of your units if they were moving that somewhere else.
Well, but if I control the North Pacific and every spot adjacent to North Pacific is safe.
Yeah, okay, but how many units does that take?
I want to say 15.
Anyway, so my experience with these, not touching too much on my own game, but like what I've seen generally from the games with these centers like St. Helena and like Chiloe in the south and Galapagos and whatnot, is that people are quite willing to discard them quickly because they're indefensible, right? You don't want to be the person holding that center when there are 3 enemy fleets in the ocean next to it.
For sure.
So you're gonna have some interesting times with Tokugawa if they do try and control MPO, and Tokugawa is a really interesting power in that they're the only one with like a starting center that is on. In fact, their capital is on the North Pacific Ocean. So they really want to control that. Like, if they don't, they are a little screwed. So I would expect you to really want to talk to Tokugawa. It's going to be painful for you for them not to be talking to you, right?
I absolutely really want to be talking to Tokugawa, and it is painful they are not talking to me. Yep. This is absolutely the case. Because, my god, like, they are here, they are real, like, they border me in the Philippines, and I want to have a negotiation with them, but I don't have it, and that's fine. Whatever, you can't have good relations with everyone. It's fine. Instead, you know who I do have good relationships? Inuit and Shoshone. Guess what, baby? We got fleets. And we have them, and if the west coast of North America is solid, then we're pushing.
Yeah.
So that's like, because of this lack of response here, I start formulating pretty early on that I'm going to want to start pushing Inuit and Shoshone west. West as in into North Pacific and then up here. So, yes, take allies, use them to hit the people that you aren't allies with. More at 11. Oh my god, it's been 2 hours and we're a year into the game.
For the record here, we have, 3.5 hours from when we started to today, so this is probably going to be a multi-part series.
This is going to be, part one.
We're going to go as far as we can today, and then we're going to record some more over the course of the week, or maybe multiple weeks. We'll see.
We'll see how long we spent doing this.
Okay. Yeah, speaking of that, shall we move on? Or do you have more to do on this phase?
Just talking about builds? Yeah. Do we want to talk about builds? God, yes, but I'm not going to. Okay. So for planning for the future, we talked about this a little bit with the move to Kato, but essentially, Inuit, Shoshone, and Atha Pascha are all agreeing that we're going to try to kick France and England off of North America. And the way that I'm going to be doing that is by primarily working against them in the Caribbean. Now, I'm not going to, just attack England in the Caribbean. I think that's a bit much. I'm pretty sure I wait a little bit to build a little more. But here's where this fleet in Belize is just so brutal for England to deal with. Because, England didn't build anything in the Caribbean, by the way, when talking about, the juicy builds. England had 3 cores and did not reinforce it at all. I think was I sold out Belize, and so now Spain is going to be friendly. And I'm like, oh yeah, my fleet in Panama is just taking Cartagena. Don't worry about it, it's fine. I think it actually does that.
I would be so terrified as England with these builds. Fleet St. Augustine as well. It's just...
What's it gonna do, right?
I suppose technically Fleet St. Augustine is more England friendly because it doesn't adjacent... if you build an army there, that's adjacent to Catawba, which is also an English SC. But, God, there's so many fleets.
Yeah, right? It's only 4 fleets. But it's only 4 fleets.
That's a lot of fleets.
It's such a beautiful arc. I mean, not in this game, man. In this game...
It depends over the region that you're talking about. Yeah, they are close together.
Yeah, in the Caribbean, I am now the dominant player. I have more fleets than anyone else. And if I can get France or Poland on side, then I have more fleets than everyone else combined. Mm-hmm. So, that's huge. Knowing I just need to get one of them on side, and trying to get England and France to stab each other is a priority. And that's a thing... I'm pretty sure this is where I have one of these big negotiation things that I'm talking about, where I talk a lot to France and England about this upcoming turn. And a big part of my negotiation, and Austria, and not so much the Ottomans, that was hey, we're good. Ottomans, we're good. Wonderful. And Portugal, not that much. Portugal and Netherlands are both trying to get me to attack each other in the Philippines. They're hey, go to Halmahera Sea and take Monaco. Hey, go to Halmahera Sea and take Dani. And I'm well, I'm going to Halmahera Sea. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out from there. Yeah. Let's just take both.
I wish. I want
every agreement.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone will be happy with me. So the big one that the biggest negotiation that I had. Let me go and make sure that I'm on about the right phase. That I'm actually not talking out of my ass. Yes. All right. Great. This is the same phase. So, I obviously don't follow through and just take Cartagena. I go into Bay of Panama and Honduras. I have this nice convoy over to Muskogeee, which is very pretty. And then these moves, like, this convoy left me exposed, and so I agreed to do slightly different moves with Shoshone over here than I ended up actually doing. Because, yeah, they had me with a slightly different set of tactics, but the end result was me and Muskoji, and then moving Kato up into Cherokee. And those were, like, the keys of this phase.
Wait, so
And
did
then
they
instead,
know
I'm
you
like,
were
okay,
supporting yourself to Kado then, or not?
no.
Okay.
No, they did not. They thought I was moving up into Kato, but I'm like, look, I wasn't gonna risk them, like, sending everything in here and me doing nothing to defend. So instead, I'm like, all right, I'll do this. So they won't be able to take Chinimacha, and yes, they would be able to take Apache from me, but not much else. And if I'm already in Muskoji, then I can start working with people to make things happen. And, like, I probably would make friends with England at this point. After I make these moves, though, I'm pretty sure that England agrees to sell out, I think, both Havana and Jamaica to me. Because he's just like, I can't hold anything. And then France's moves into Antioch's Current and Windward Passage is also very like, oh, I'm gonna go and
Yeesh.
mess with,
Yeah, wait,
right,
he's
mess
got
with the
nothing
British.
on Bahamas as well. Did he not, like, offer you that? Because I would say, in England's position, I would say, hey, take Bahamas and then hope you bounce with France there.
Yes. I think he's like, oh, I can't hold Bahamas. Anyways, I don't remember exactly, but the point was, England after this made a deal with me that involved me taking both of these centers.
Mm-hmm.
I think Havana this year, Jamaica next year was, I think, the exact way that arrangement worked. But it was like, he just said, hey, take them. And I'm like, all right, that's great. And then to France, he agreed to sell out Corsica.
Oh.
Because he was like, shit, I can't defend Corsica. Damn it. Fine. And it's like, why did you want it so much then if you're not going to hold it? I don't understand. I don't really get it, but that's what happened here. I actually talked to France about this bounce in Ligurian Sea, and I thought we were going to bounce in Ligurian, and then I was going to take it in the fall. But he just let me take it in the spring.
Ooh.
And so I can take Ligurian and Genoa now, if Austria supports me with Milan. And Austria, as you'll notice, made a pretty big attack against France here and moved into Strasbourg. Now, Austria thought that France and I were bouncing in Occitania. And part of this whole Corsica nonsense, and I'm also, as part of me getting Corsica, I'm supporting him into Jamaica. And I think also Bahamas. I forget. This was a complicated deal because I made deals with England and France that involved me taking centers off of both of them and neither one of them feeling like I was stabbing them.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's always the best kind of deal to make.
It's just a miracle. I was feeling myself after these moves went through because my position looks so glorious. Shoshone moves all the units away from me, right? Just hard moves. Alpha Pascha wasn't messaging much this phase, and so Shoshone and Inuit both decided to stab. All right, fine. I don't love it. I'd rather see France get crushed, but whatever. They're attacking, not me. Wonderful. My favorite player. Then, well, no, not me is my favorite player. It's my favorite player for them to attack.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. But yes, so I'm going to take Corsica, and France is okay with it. Okay, in quotation marks. I was hoping to be able to disband Corsica as well, but that's not going to happen. And, like, if I moved into Gulf of Leon, that would be breaking the deal. So, nope, I stuck to the deal, and I moved into Valencia. All right, everything's fine. Then self-bounce in Ionian Sea, not even moving into Athens. That's wonderful. Or not even moving out of Athens, so there's no pressure on Naples. Wonderful. We're going to take Corsica. Then over here, I'm pretty sure I'm going to take Havana and then support France into Jamaica and Bahamas. The support to Jamaica is critical because that will pop the fleet. Because I'm in Gulf of Honduras here, he's already in Baracoa, so if we take Jamaica, that fleet gets popped. Number of hostile fleets in the Caribbean, down 1. Then Bahamas gets captured. Number of hostile cores in the Caribbean, down 1. England will have only Barbuda as a core to potentially build into the Caribbean. Here, I'm talking a lot with Poland, and I'm really trying to get Poland to snipe Cape Haiti.
That's
Because
another core down,
this,
yeah.
right? Yeah, that's their only core. And so if he takes Jamaica, and if he's going to here, which I know is happening, then Caribbean Sea just takes, then we can just take Cape Haitian, and suddenly there are the only other core from a colonial in the Caribbean is going to be New Courland. And I guess Bermuda, if you consider Bermuda part of the Caribbean, which I don't. So
wait, so Poland could
I'm like,
snipe Barbuda at the same time, right? That would be
yes. I was talking about both. I was certainly talking about both. But Puerto Rico was probably covering Barbuda, so unclear about what's going on here. I think in reality, the problem is that Poland wants France on side because Poland is getting crushed by everyone, and so Poland doesn't want to die. And like,
Oh, I just saw there's a Russian NMR over there. That's painful.
yeah,
I guess it's
well,
not
we're not
very
gonna
relevant
look.
to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to focus on the NMRs because there are a couple of them, but it's okay. All right. Anyways, my Caribbean looks so lovely. I am just so happy about it. And we were talking about the Caribbean being the main threat to like my central area over in Central America. But I can just conquer the Caribbean, and I'm gonna start making inroads quickly. And I'm already the biggest power. England's losing more fleets. If I plop down a couple more fleets, I will just have more fleets than everyone else in the Caribbean combined. And so that's great. And again, I'm doing this while not burning bridges. I am still working with everyone here. And that's just so glorious because if someone stabs me and Portugal makes a critical move against me or France or whatever, if anyone does this, then I can react. And it's just, I can work with anyone. Having maximum flexibility whilst also growing quickly is wonderful.
I think
And
probably
notice,
the most impressive part of that is just the fact that you can support France to Jamaica and England won't take that as a
that's almost certainly us breaking a deal, but it's just one dot. And like he
but
was
like
already losing Jamaica.
You said he
anyway.
was offering Jamaica anyway, right? So
Yeah.
I assume that in the fall, even if that's not agreed that you put France there, you can just say, "Oh, I'm gonna push France back out again on this next turn,"
Yeah.
and then we're good, right?
Yep, exactly. Jamaica was a strictly next year thing, but I mean, can't blame a man for taking a dot a year early. Like, like, what's she gonna do? I mean, I'm here. I might as well take it. Like, or let France take it, as the case may be. But like, it's the fact that the point of discussion had been shifted so far from like, hey, these are my centers, you don't take them, to okay, you can take all of these centers, but later. To then go from you can take these centers but later to fine, I'm taking them now, as opposed to no, you can't have my centers to I just took it. Like, it's a very different frame of mind to be in. And so that's a great place to sit. Which is why I'm happy, like I'm ecstatic about that position. And then over in Indonesia, here's where I made like my first move. Supporting Cotabato into Nentua Sea. Just a bounce. Like, I knew it was bouncing, but like, God, I just hated this. I didn't want to let Ayutthaya win because I think they're going to snowball and then beat me. And I want to work with Netherlands because I want their support in South America because they're going to be useful and like they're attacking France and they're in Caribbean and stuff. And so I want them to be on side. So I don't want to mess with them too much, but I really do want their dots. And like, man, Manado is juicy, and like Manado is actually guaranteed capture. Danny's only a guess, but Portugal in South America is getting absolutely bodied. So what exactly is Portugal? What do they have to offer me? I don't know. So I'd rather work with Netherlands right now, and like Portugal here getting bounced out of everything, and except for Modern, actually. Modern was fun. It's a pretty convoy. Convoy in here with support. Oh, beautiful. but doesn't actually do anything because Mali just covers it, and now you have an army there. Cool, doesn't do much. So yeah, unfortunate over there, and like down here, Azeron is getting hit by Abyssinia, but Portugal like doesn't actually have much growth anywhere, like at all.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
It's not
Anywhere.
going well.
And so I'm like, if I take Danny, Portugal's like can't build and can't do anything. So yeah, what are they going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big. That was that's I ended up thoughting Danny. And like I don't do anything else, right? Like we're still peaceful at home. Like Rabat exchanging for Canaries was all agreed upon, and so I think we're fine. Like I dotted him. I've dotted France. I've dotted England. With France, oh, I forgot to talk about the whole France situation. I told Austria that I was gonna disbounce Macedonia. I basically told Austria, oh, everything is gonna be golden for you to attack France. Everyone's gonna be hitting them in North America, so they're gonna be getting no builds ever, and I'll be hitting them really hard in the Mediterranean. So, dude, we can just crush France together. Absolutely, the two of us. And then he was like, okay, well, make sure you bounce on Occitania so that way France can't defend Strasbourg. And then France was like, hey, make sure we don't bounce on Occitania so I can defend Strasbourg. And in exchange, I'll like give you Corsica if you also let me take some centers over here. And I was like, all right, deal. To France, that was.
Oh wait, so you taking Corsica wasn't even a stab, like setting up to take Corsica. It was all agreed. Okay.
Yes. The bounce in Ligurian Sea is unclear if that was a stab or not. I literally don't remember it. I thought we discussed the bounce in Ligurian Sea, and I think the actual message, like I said, hey, we should bounce in Ligurian Sea. He like didn't respond to that particular part of the negotiations as far as exchanging Corsica for me giving him Bahamas and Jamaica. But then I like later on followed up and be like, hey, are we still good on tactics this turn? Are we still good on the deal and everything's clear this turn? He was like, yes. And I think that's what happened, and so that's why the move to Ligurian Sea even wasn't like a big stab. It was just a oops, I'm in Ligurian Sea.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm in Ligurian Sea, man, I can take Genoa and Corsica? How am I supposed to not?
So wait, how did Austria react to you not bouncing Occitania then?
He was pissed. He was so pissed. Because he's just attacked France in like the most open way possible, clearly declaring war. But he didn't bring Nuremberg over because he was also trying to attack Poland.
Mm-hmm.
And so he tried to skimp on his attack against France. And as a result, he is not in great shape because he thought that Strasbourg was going to be fine. And he's like, oh, I can support him with Freiburg, and he's only going to have 2 on it, so we're fine, and everything will be okay. And then oops is a third. Oops, he's not able to do it. Yikes.
Yeah,
I really dislike this. Yeah, I really dislike this move from Austria. I think trying to attack both sides simultaneously is too much. I think like this is a salt move, and hey, sometimes they work, but they often don't. And I think he should have stuck to one side. Like Nuremberg should have moved west or east, and if he's moving east into Silesia and zips like this, I don't think he should have attacked west. But I didn't look at that much time at the position. But Austria was hella pissed. He was so pissed about this. And I'm like, you know what? You can have Naples, buddy. Take it. Enjoy. Fine. Have at it. You'll give me a storming to Genoa. Yeah, it's like, I don't really care about Naples. It's fine. He already took Rome. This position's annoying. I'm never going to build in Naples anyways. Fine, you can have Rome. You can have Naples. Take it. Be friends. I don't really want the peace out with France, and like I could probably tell him he can't have Naples, and then tell him like what's he gonna do about it. But I don't want him to be pissed at me, and then Ottomans to decide they're gonna take Naples off of me, and then like be annoying and stuff. So I'm like, fine, you can just take Naples. You can grow, be fine, have a good time. But he was not happy about this. This was probably what did to piss him off the most the entire game.
Well, it sounds like it was handled well. Just throw him an SC and hope that makes everything good.
Have you ever, like, had a relationship with someone that was so bad that you couldn't fix it by giving them a dot?
Yes.
Wow. I really haven't. Like, okay. Excuse me. By having them net 1 dot. Because, yes, if I like, stab someone and I take 3 dots off of them, yes, I cannot appease them by giving them 1 of their dots back. Yes. It's the like, hey, look, you're still netting a dot off of me, and okay, you thought you were stabbing France for the dot, and we're still basically stabbing France for the dot because I'm taking Genoa, but then oops, you're getting Naples, so you're still +1, I'm still plus, and everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even remember if I take Genoa here. I'm pretty sure I take Genoa because I'm in Ligurian Sea, and like, how could I not? And his stuff in Jamaica and Bahamas is not tenable. Like, he can't hold them. So, yes.
Mm-hmm.
What a turn. I don't even remember what I'm doing in Muskoji, to be honest.
I mean, it's just a nice place to be, right? You can go for Catawba if you want to.
Yeah, borders 4 places. Yeah, but I'm not stabbing England here. Remember, I'm just taking 2 centers, or I'm just assisting in the capture of 3 centers off of England. I'm not stabbing them. This was agreed.
Absolutely not a stab, no.
Yeah, I don't know why you think this is a stab. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Alright. Is there more to talk about in this phase, or shall we get to the next one?
Tokugawa moving south. I do not like this.
Oh.
I am unhappy about this. Tokugawa's not saying anything, not messaging, and moves into Kuroshio Current. Yeah, they're going to attack me. Oof. Alright. Cool. We have clean map. We don't care about the clean... Or then retreats. Then something we don't care about.
We don't care
about no retreats are relevant.
Okay.
Okay. Real moves. Alright, so that's what I'm doing in Muskoshi. I'm holding an Apache, supporting the attack into Missouri. You love it when everyone supports them in. No one's trying to stop it.
I love that, like, France is going, hey, you'll have 2 units on Spain, it'll be great, right? And you're going, oh yeah, you'll have the units on France.
Yep.
Oh,
Absolutely.
fantastic. Yeah, I feel like, given the move into Lakota as well, this is not going to go very well for France. Although,
yeah, and like France supporting
Algerie as well. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yep. Yeah.
There's such a thing as helping someone too much.
Yeah. In France's defense, I think he recognized that Shoshone was going to hit him immediately after, was going to hit them soon, and figured maybe I can actually get them on side by helping them into everything, showing them a valuable ally.
Yeah.
I think that's a reasonable thought, but also...
It's a play. It works on a certain type of person, and then on other types of people...
I actually think Shoshone is the type of person that it would have worked with. I just think that Shoshone had already made deals with me and Inuit first. And so I think those deals stuck through. I remember how I managed to not stab England for Bahamas. I just didn't take Bahamas.
Wait. Okay, fine. But England surely saw this as, like, not friendly, right? Wait, they get out of Baracoa as well, so they don't even take that?
Well, yeah, Jamaica's going to retreat to Baracoa, actually. It's very sad.
Of course.
I thought I was popping that fleet, but no, they did a good juke. And it was sad. I was sad.
But, like, you can't excuse going to Bahamas Current. Like, that is obviously anti-England. Like, so obviously.
Maybe. I mean, look.
I mean, admittedly,
yes,
England will be desperate, right? So maybe they just go, whatever. I know you're gonna stab, but, like...
I think I offered to let England take Bahamas. I think.
How generous of you.
I'm pretty sure I offered to support England into Bahamas, but I'm going to take Baracoa, I think, in exchange.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I might not even do that. I might even say, hey, you can just take Baracoa, and then I take Baracoa later when I feel like it. Mm-hmm. Look, if we focus on the Caribbean, I'm going to be a real stabber, okay? Because I'm just trying to kill these people. Okay, sorry, I haven't talked about what I was doing. Sorry, after 01 of this game, I did a count on how to get the 64 centers. Immediately. Like, I looked at 01, I'm like, all right, great. And so the count that I did was I realized that I'm already at 27, 28. Right? So I need to take 36 centers to win this game. Okay? So, 36 centers. Let's see how many centers I can take from other colonials. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, neutral 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, maybe 21. Let's see, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Oh shit, I can get like all of the centers I need by stabbing the other colonials. And I was like, oh, all right. It's so much easier to achieve victory with regional miners because the regional miners only need to get 32 centers. So I can have 2 regional miner allies at the price of 1 colonial ally. And I think of that because you can win the game with these people. Like, again, in real diplomacy, it doesn't feel that way at all because you have to stab them, you have to fight. And here, I can literally work with these guys until the end of the game. And so what's the best, most stable alliance I can get for the entire game? And working with the regionals against the other colonials seemed like the best way to do that. Now, I want to be smart about this because I don't want to put all my eggs in the baskets of the regionals. And so focus on dismantling 1 or 2 regionals at a time is priority. So for now, I am mostly working with Netherlands and Portugal against the others. You'll notice I'm taking Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Here, actually, I misordered. I thought I had Orinoco taking Pamorbo. So, okay, that bit about working with some of the regionals, and then I'm also taking Danny, though, not Monaco, right? Because it's like, look, I'm thinking of double dotting Netherlands. I'm double dotting, maybe triple dotting England, depending on how you feel about it. I'm dotting France. If I don't dot Portugal, he'll feel left out. So, in the spirit of inclusivity, we'll dot Portugal. Also, again, you'll notice it's a core.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sniping cores off these people, and I thought I was sniping Pamorbo to deny more cores, to just stop them from building in my theater. And my theater is the Americas. So if they can't build over here, then I'm in great shape. And that's why I thought I sniped this one. Oops, I misordered. And actually, I think it worked out that I didn't take it, because it meant that I was able to keep my illusion of like, hey, I'm still your friend, Netherlands. We can work together.
Yep.
And so I think this was a very reasonable thing. This was such a good turn. I felt so happy about it, and it's such a good turn because not only was it great, but it set me up for a bunch of great future turns as well. Mm-hmm. Like, the Caribbean is going to go smoothly. No issues here. No issues anywhere. Like, I'm so happy about this one. Okay, I think we can now. Any other global catastrophes worth noting?
I do want to mention, just unrelated to the game itself, but convoy-wise, the convoy arrows are a little weird at the moment. They will become much neater at some point in the near future. Like, if you look at Black Sea, the Ottomans convoy with 2 fleets, and it puts 2 convoy arrows down and another arrow for the move. At some point in my game, I do a convoy that's fancy enough that they fix the bot on this. So, because I was drawing too many things. That was just a fun thing that I want to mention. That will look a little better in future. There is one other type of move that looks a bit better in future, and that's a move from a wraparound province. So in I did see what you were looking at there, but at the moment I don't think there's any on this specific phase.
Oh yeah, there was one previously. I'm not going to find it.
Yeah, it's fine. Oh, there's one at the very bottom here. So from South Pacific Ocean to Gunai there. I think that's Gunai anyway. Those moves at the moment go all the way across the map. It gets a little annoying at some points, but it's going to turn into wrapping around at some point. So that's going to look a little nicer. But
yeah, they're going to do this annoying thing where they're going to duplicate fleets in both halves of these. So like if there's a fleet in South Pacific Ocean 1, it's going to appear on the map here and here. Mm-hmm. And so that leads to these provinces being... Like, if there's 2 fleets on the board and there's only 1 fleet in that province, it's to make it easier to track. I don't like that personally, but it's fine.
Yeah, oh, I see an NMR there. I also saw you zoomed in on Strasbourg, and I looked at that and I saw France didn't support that move in. Like,
Nope.
what? Why?
Yeah, because Austria did a good enough job of lying to Austria to get them to not. Yeah, to get them to not. Okay, and I don't take Genoa. Sure, because I would have to support Austria. Yeah, fat chance of that. Um,
Did Austria ask you for support? I assume
um,
they may have done, but like you have an excuse for not giving that, which is, hey, Corsica can cut Ligurian, right? There's no,
yeah,
and
the only way
surely
to
they
take it
do
would be
that.
to take it from Ligurian. Yeah, surely. I
Hmm.
think they actually did input that. It's really hard to tell with all these zeros around here, but I'm pretty sure they did that thing.
Hmm.
Oh no, they didn't. They had this was attacked. This was part of the arrangements. It was an agreement that Sicily would support Corsica into Tyrrhenian Sea
Oh, to make sure that you take from
to make
Turin?
sure that if I don't if I don't take from Tyrrhenian, like I think it was I was supposed to support whole Tyrrhenian and like take Corsica. I forget exactly what it was, but like if I did a different thing, if I took Genoa, basically I would lose Tyrrhenian Sea.
Oh, I
Was the
see. Hmm.
because like if I took Genoa and Corsica, so I'm like, all right, I'm not going to do that. And then I slightly changed how I did it. I took from Tyrrhenian with strength 3 rather than like doing anything else. Oh yes, he wanted me to support hold Tyrrhenian Sea and then have Tyrrhenian Sea support Ligurian to Corsica. That was what they were. That's what France was asking for.
Hmm.
And then got Ottomans to agree to agree to it. I didn't want to do that because I didn't want Ottomans to have the ability to tap Tyrrhenian Sea, um, because then I wouldn't take Corsica, and so that's a fair excuse. And also, oops, I'm still in Ligurian Sea, so isn't that convenient?
Also, like, Tyrrhenian Sea isn't. I mean, it's still a nice province to be in, don't get me wrong, but it's not as vital to you now that you've given up Naples.
Yep,
Like.
I fully agree. It's no longer like the glue holding my thing together, but sacrificing Naples, that's fine.
Hmm.
So yes, this was a good way to make progress over here. You'll notice I'm putting cores in. I don't actually care about coring in these provinces. I'm never going to build anything here, but these two I just want to hold, and if I hold, it's suspicious. So
This
coring
is
is
a
less
full turn,
suspicious.
right?
Yep,
I
I
have
started coring in
one like
strings.
really uh, big gripe with one of your orders here.
Yeah.
It's Valencia to Barcelona.
Yep.
Why? Why not move it out to Balearic and then you have the possibility to build an army and go against France? Like the move back to Barcelona just feels like it's covering up your ability to attack France, but at the same time you've just said you've stabbed them by going in with Tyrrhenian instead of Ligurian, right? So they know.
Well, you got to understand, stabs have levels,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if I'm just dotting France, right? Because remember, I let him take Bahamas, and I supported him into Jamaica's, and then look, I went to take Corsica because I took
Yeah.
Corsica, and I can explain it away as like, look, I'm just trying to be safe here. I don't want, like, I didn't want Ottomans to be able to mess with my deal and like get us pissed at each other by tapping it, so I just took Corsica. I'm not really stabbing you here. It's fine, right? If I like leave Barcelona open, build an army there, it's like, okay, I'm obviously trying to kill him. But I know he's going to retreat from Corsica, probably into Gulf of Leon, just on legal option unless he goes off the board, which I'll try to convince him of, but he's not going to. So I need the fleet in Barcelona to be able to do it. But if I build a fleet in Barcelona, then it's obvious when builds come around what's happening. Whereas with the move up, I think it's less scary to people.
Yeah,
So
I guess that's true. And like in this position as France, you're much more comfortable with the fleet covering Barcelona, just even going into builds. So your builds are
yeah,
less likely to be aggressive against you. Yeah.
yep.
Um,
Like the fleet is already there, and like if I had moved into Balearic and still built a fleet in Barcelona, that's really showing my hand.
mm-hmm.
And so not doing that is nice. And having my fleet there to begin with. And I cover Gulf of Leon, like I can support myself into there and break it, and everything's great. Um, Portugal, Azores out the North Atlantic Ocean, that's great. Canary Basin Canaries, that was agreed upon. And man, doesn't Iberia look so lovely? No units around. Oh, I'm so happy about it.
This is the time to build two armies and go take Portugal, Porto, and
We
Lisbon.
can we can we can talk about that actually in a second. I actually we can yeah let's do it now. So Portugal isn't building. Portugal
We're not
doesn't.
through to the winter phase yet, so the builds on the side aren't accurate yet. Just
Yeah,
so
I
you
was
know.
like, okay, actually, yeah, that's a point. That's an advantage of going ahead, is we can see the builds on stuff. So we'll wait until we go through the next phase, then we can see stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but yes, so things went smoothly for me everywhere. Like, obviously, I have 3 armies holding over here. That's lovely, very efficient, maximum
No support
progress.
holds on Kado or Kado. I can't believe this. Like
Oh, all
Shoshone
right.
had 2 units adjacent.
Yeah, well,
You're doing what we criticize everyone for doing.
yeah. The difference is I have 26 units on the board, and there can be mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
When people do this with 4 armies, it's less excusable.
Yes, that's fair.
Yeah, having 26 units, or 26, and having to type them in by hand, so there's no easy way to check what everything's doing.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lot harder. And I make more mistakes this game than I usually do.
Yeah. Oh, I really like that you managed to get Shoshone to move Aquala to Viscano Bay, by the way.
Yep.
It can still go to Seal Cortez and stab you, but it's on the way out, which is really
Yep.
nice.
And I think that was part of us being nice and friendly and showing trust.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that I had these things holding and not a tap on Cherokee. Oh well. Yeah, sometimes you make mistakes.
And you're coring everything on the... Well, you're coring Hawaii and Galapagos at the same time. Was that just because they have nothing else to do, or did you really want to be building there in the near future?
I felt that Galapagos is a place I actually did want to build in, because it borders South Pacific. And like your point about these things being exposed, yeah, but they're also powerful.
Yes.
Like a fleet in Galapagos gets to Gunai. A fleet in Galapagos gets to Chiloe in the same year. And like I can have fleets here and then shuffle them out effectively, and support into South Pacific is big. But Pucci didn't want me going into South Pacific, so Galapagos couldn't make that move, but I figured that might happen in the future. And Hawaii, I figured it might happen in the future, so things are going to be cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think those provinces are really... Like, they're indefensible, but they are really nice cores to have if you do have a core there.
Yeah, and like taking a year off to core from them seems fine. Like, what was Hawaii going to do this year? Like, I don't know. It didn't seem much productive for it to get off to. And sitting around staying defensive is nice, so that way, Shoshone, like, if they stab me, I have a unit adjacent to an NEC in North Equatorial Current. So, things would be okay.
Yep.
So, yeah. No, I was happy to core. I was strongly considering coring everything. Like, I was saying, look, I could go into this game and then just take year 2 off and just core all of the centers that I took in 01.
Mm-hmm.
And I was I was anticipating doing that. Then the builds came in, and I saw I had too beautiful of an opportunity in the Caribbean and the Mediterranean for me to not do that. And then I had to take her bot still, so...
Yep.
Yeah, I felt like I had to make these moves. Okay, anything big? Portugal's getting in rough shape, but it's not nearly as rough as it was previously. Like, Portugal got people on side, so like they're not hard collapsing everywhere, but they're still not getting any builds.
Yeah.
So
Sorry,
even
can
though
you
the
flip
spring
back
was
to
terrible,
Aymara and Mapuche down there? What exactly happened on this discussion? Did they get Aymara on side to attack Mapuche? It looks like
yes.
they did. Yeah, okay. So they are getting friends, even among people that you wouldn't expect to be friends with them. Aymara, for example.
Yes.
Although I think
I
Aymara
forgot
may
about
just
that.
go and kill them anyway, looking at their position.
What? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But South America is looking more and more yellow. The northern part of South America. There's this annoying orange in Caribe, but we'll get that fixed soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is a good feeling. And so here, I think, do we see builds, or do we have to go all the way to...
We have to go
retreat?
to wins. Yeah, there you go.
Here we go.
Now you will.
Okay, Portugal. 0.
Oof.
That's a very important number. You notice I'm only 6, so I'm only like +4, so not that much, but mostly in the... yeah, anyways. So, Portugal's +0. Let's look at Portugal. If I plop down 2 armies, I walk into Porto, I walk into Lisbon. My fleet in Tangier could go into Sea of Azores, hit Azores really hard. My fleet in Marrakesh moves to Tigrit Bay, and there's a chance that Portugal blocks me and bounces Tigrit Bay, but also could just move to Sintra Bay. So if I do this, I probably am in great shape to take everything. Like, he can defend as much as he wants, but I'm still going to take these. And remember, I dotted him last turn in Danny. But considering the rest of the map and how Netherlands and Portugal have been fighting, how Mali has been smashing Portugal over here, they've been fighting each other really hard, how in South America, Azeron's been rallying everyone against him, how Mughals are attacking him, I figure I'm totally fine. Like,
yeah, it's
he's
like
not
if he's
going to attack
getting
me.
destroyed everywhere and you just leave him the centers in that region, it's not like he's gonna get builds to put them down there, right? And like it,
Even if he does, why would he put them down there? Like, he has so many other regions that need so much help still. Like, I've been... Look, have I been the best of allies to the guy? No, I dotted him in Danny. Like, obviously that's not great, but that's all I did. And, like, I did it because Netherlands told me to. And so I didn't talk about this. So part of my philosophy about this region was that because the Netherlands are so much stronger than me in Indonesia, I've been doing what they want, right? You can see I supported them to go with the Batu. I've been supporting them in Nantua Sea. Like, I've been their bitch in Indonesia. And, hey, I got a dot out of it. Okay, that's sweet. And, like, I have someone who's not going to attack me, and they're currently hard at war with Ayutthaya. And the position is such that I think if Netherlands like wants to go hard against Ayutthaya, I think we crush. I think he's like, hey, get into Bay of Tonkin, get into South China Sea. I'll be taking Sumatra, you'll take Phan Rang, and we'll be golden. I think things go well, but that's not what Netherlands wants to do, and I'm just doing what he wants in the region, and that included attacking Portugal. And I'm like, I don't necessarily agree with attacking Portugal in this area. I suspect, given that Portugal is working with Aymara against Mapuche in South America, we can leave Portugal to attack Mapuche in Australia. But, like, Portugal and Netherlands are both trying to get me to attack the other one, and it's like, I don't know. I'm making them both happy by messing with the other one. Looks at Amazon. And so, but, like, not that much. I don't know. But the main question is, should I plop down 2 armies here? Should I plop down Army Madrid, Army Gibraltar, take Porto and Lisbon, take Azores, try to take Canaries, and, like, have just one in Iberia?
I think it's reasonable not to. Like, I would certainly be tempted to, but there is a huge benefit to having a colonial ally who isn't doing well elsewhere, right? Especially going into the late game as well. If you're in a position where, for example, you've been with Portugal for the entire game, yeah, you dotted them for Danny early on, but you didn't push any further, and they've been suffering to everyone else, right? Then that's a pretty nice thing to have into the late game, because if it comes down to a position where they have to decide who's going to get over that victory condition line, they're gonna let you do it. Right?
Yeah. I completely agree. I think they are a valuable ally to have. The other part that I considered, this was, I think, actually the bigger factor even. Actually, if I I would have built a fleet in Gibraltar to then take Lisbon with Cadiz Bay. Just a small thing to talk about. But as I am messing with England and France in the Caribbean, things are going to escalate into a real war very quickly. Just that's going to happen. I'm not going to be able to keep things from going any further. And so when they want to retaliate against me, if you look at the Atlantic, they dominate it. They've got all of these fleets over here, and they're going to struggle to get into the Caribbean because I'm going to keep Florida current blocked up, and it's difficult again for them to get their fleets here. If I have taken Porto, Lisbon, and Azores, and they try to retaliate, there's going to be a fleet in Iberian Current tomorrow. There's going to be 2 fleets North Atlantic Ocean. And, like, yeah, Azores, right? I can't hold North Atlantic Ocean. Look at this.
Yep.
I've been trying to get the two of them to go to war with each other, and I've succeeded pretty well at this, right? These tapping London, supporting an English channel, they're bouncing with each other and cutting supports in North America. Like, I'm supporting France into these British centers, and I think that got France to say, yes, I'm committing hard to taking 2 centers from England in the Caribbean. I might as well make this part of a bigger offensive. So by getting them to attack each other, that's great. I don't know how long this is going to last. They're going to get pissed at me. And so by taking these centers, I open myself to another front.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to attack me, like, they have to go through Portugal first. And I don't think they're going to do that. So, as a result, by keeping Portugal there, I have insulated Iberia from the repercussions of what I'm doing in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
That said, if I just take those 3 centers by using a fleet to take Lisbon, and I build a fleet in Gibraltar and Tangier, because Tangier, I would have to use to take Azores and stuff, but like, if I just build more fleets in the area, like Marrakesh, I'm going to be able to defend it. And I didn't properly evaluate how tanky this set of places is. Iberian Current, Sea of the Azores, Canary Basin is really hard to break.
Mm-hmm.
And so my biggest regret this game is, believe it or not dotting my ally. This, I think, wouldn't be a dot. This would be a full-on stab.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't do it. And I have so many regrets. God, I just... Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for also not necessarily dotting your ally, but just making sure that you have an excuse to build an army in Iberia. Not that attacks them necessarily, but just that's there to cause a little havoc if they start causing problems.
Yeah, I think putting down an army in Valencia is reasonable, just as a defensive measure. But again, I only have 6 builds this turn.
Yep, it's hard
That's
to.
not.
It's hard
That's
to
not
find
a lot
one
of
to
builds.
spare, yeah.
Right? It's like, look, South America's going well, but like, there's still a lot of hostile armies here. And if I'm trying to like edge out Netherlands or edge out Aymara, then things are tough. Like, I want to build Army Lima. I'm trying to conquer the Caribbean. I need Fleet St. Augustine. I need Fleet Panama North Coast, because I just necessary. I have to get more fleet majority in here. So, okay, that's 2 builds for sure. I've just extended to take Danny, and if you'll notice, there's all of these hostile, non-communicative Tokugawan fleets. They're probably coming south, so I want fleets in Manila and Cebu. And like, I value having a colonial ally, and yeah, I dotted them a bit, but that's it. That's all I've done. Like,
Just a bit. Yeah.
I dotted them, right? Like, I dotted them. That's fine. I've dotted everyone. Look at how much I've dotted England, and England's happy to work with me. Like, look at what I've done to France. And like, I've given France centers, but France is... We'll see how long he keeps them.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so
should
that's
we have a
where I'm
look
sitting.
at the builds that you actually made then?
Yes, and we're going to have to then call it after we see the builds I actually make.
That was what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah. And
so
I
nothing
go
in
for...
Iberia at all.
I do not build in Iberia. And no fleets from the Ottomans, notably.
Yeah,
That's
nice.
great.
Yeah.
No fleets in Marseille. Fleet Nantes. But he's at war with England, right? So we're happy, right? That's not hostile to me. It's not like Army Bordeaux or whatever. And yeah, Marseille, I'm in Ligurian Sea. I just was messed with him. We got to accept it. Like, there's only so much you can do.
Mm-hmm.
But no Ottoman fleets. Love to see it. I mean, again, Baghdad, whatever. Who cares? So this one, great. And Portugal obviously didn't build anything. Nothing in Iberia, because everything's fine. Right? I understand that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 centers over here, and only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units. So, but it's fine. Everything's okay. As long as they don't stab me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and then yeah, Army Saltillo. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4 in Cebu, and I wave 2. I'm pretty sure. Again.
Okay, so you did have the spare units built.
Oh, I could have put them down.
Choose to wave them, yeah.
Yep. But like, I didn't want to stab Portugal. And if I don't build the units, I can't stab Portugal. And I want to keep those builds in my back pocket. I want that flexibility still. So, God, every time I look at Shoshon's builds, it makes me scared.
Yep, I would be very, very scared of Shoshone, right? It's just like it's such a death ball if it does come for you, right? They can get so many units on the line.
But I have another army. He builds 4. I build 1.
He builds
it's
5.
Okay.
Oh, four armies, yeah. But your Colts is also really scary. Because you can go to Viscado Bay and Viscado to Sea of Cortez, and you can't even bounce that now.
La 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 la. I'm not listening. Everything's fine. I promise. We're okay. Why would he attack me? You can only take like 3 centers off of me in the first year of combat. It's fine. It's fine. I promise. Yes. Good news. This is a problem for somebody else. Because it is at this phase that I have to go to a tournament in Vegas. And so I have a sub take over for me in this year. It is Fulminator or Heinrichs on Discord. He was the he's an old friend of mine. I think he's exceptional at diplomacy and at managing tons of relationships. And this game, I think he's gonna do an amazing job at. So I had him take over for a week while I was in Vegas. And a week is going to be 1 full game year. So the next year that you guys see, next session, we'll remind you guys to start the next video because this is going to be the end of the video, where we'll talk about, we'll see how he handles this situation.
Well, it should be interesting. All right, well, thank you for joining us for this part 1. We will see you in part 2 of Ezio's Imperial Spain escapades.